And we are live. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well on this wonderful Thursday evening where I'm at, or wherever you're listening on the playback. I appreciate you all for tuning in. And if you are new, please make sure that you do subscribe. For those in the chat, make sure that you like the stream. And I hope everyone is doing well. Let's see who's in the chat right now. Vincent, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day today. It's been another very, very, very warm day today again. So just make sure that you drink a hell of a lot of water, people. Make sure you keep yourself hydrated. One of the things which since I've passed 25, I've just been drinking water like crazy, and it is the best way to keep yourself hydrated. I'm telling you, there's no other drink that I've experienced which keeps me cool and hydrated like water. I first didn't like the taste of it, but now, do you know what? I actually don't mind it. So yeah, make sure that you guys are all hydrated and making sure that you guys are all staying extremely cool. KB Jones, how's it going, man? Appreciate you all stopping by. And again, make sure you like the stream on the way in. And again, subscribe if you are new. Fiona, how's it going? Yep, tomorrow's going to be warmer, and that's it, really. So yeah, absolutely. Make sure that you all are keeping yourself extremely, extremely hydrated. So this stream today, again, it's a bit of a political mood I'm in right now. And was talking in the last stream about black MPs, or black conservative MPs, and are they considered to be sellouts, and are they needed in the community? And is it like a different voice that we've been missing? So naturally, the next logical step in regards to being an MP when it comes to our UK politics, and the highest step, is the Prime Minister. Now, we have not yet had a Prime Minister who is of any sort of ethnic minority, at least from what I'm aware of. Now, some people may point to a day and age way back when, where someone may be a quarter this, a quarter that, and that might count. But to me, that does not count. And the question that I'm posing today, and what I want your guys' viewpoints on, is it possible? Can we have our first black Prime Minister? And if we can, is it possible in our reality, our lifetime? And if it's not, also, why do you think that is the case? Because this conversation, to be fair, I don't know if you remember all this in the chat and people who have been listening, but there was a conversation after President Obama got into the Oval Office, in which the question inevitably comes up in regards to, because for some odd reason, we like to just, I'm just going to keep it real, we like to copy off the Americans for a lot of things, which I need to have a stream about, talking to you guys about this. But for some odd reason, we always seem to just sort of come after them, even though our country's older, we're here first, all that kind of good stuff. But still, the conversation stayed as to whether we ourselves would have, or ever see in our lifetimes, a first black Prime Minister. And there was a candidate who, again, was compared to President Obama. His name was Chuka Umunna. I don't know, again, if anyone in the chat, anyone listening on the playback has heard of Chuka Umunna. He was compared to President Obama for obvious reason. He was of mixed parentage. He had a white Irish mother, and like President Obama had a white American mother. And his father was Nigerian, I think of the Igbo tribe, as well as, you look at President Obama, his father was from Kenya. Now, again, the similarities don't just lie there. I think both of their they left them at a young age, so they didn't see him. And also, they were raised by their white half of their side. So there's so many comparisons there. But ever since Chuka Umunna's name's been put in the ring as potential leader, they call him black, but obviously he's mixed race, he's obviously mixed parentage, he sort of fell off the scene. There's not really been anyone else who's since then have come into the fore, at least from what I'm aware of, who's had that sort of, I would say star power, if you like, but we've not had anyone who said, you know what, that's almost the next one. He was that person, but, issues that he had in terms of the party and all this kind of other stuff, he sort of left. And since then, as conversations have been going on about the ceiling when it comes to us as people, and can we reach that ceiling? And you know what? I had a revelation, an epiphany this week. And usually I'm not the religious type. I'm more spiritual, if anyone's been listening to my stream about religion and hurting or helping the black community. So I'm not necessarily a religious type, but you know what? I do believe in signs. I do believe in imagery. I do believe in symbolism. And when I was putting together the stream and looking at things, you know what? I don't know what it was, but I was hit with it. And today, what I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is raise the consciousness of all you black people out here in the UK about the ceiling, because I'm about to reveal the truth. I'm about to give you the red pill of politics. Now, before I do that, let me just say what's up to the chat, because I do see some movement in the chat. Some people who I've not seen, I just want to say what's up to you guys. Sega S, how's it going? Does half count? To some people, mix may count. To other people, it does not count. I'll let you be the judge of that. Me personally, I believe if you do identify as being black, even if you are mixed, I'm cool with that. But it is what it is. Jonas, how's it going? You say you do see a black power in the United country. Thank you for that. I'll be happy to hear your viewpoints. Manchester Blue M16, how's it going? Skittles Man, how's it going? MC Mickey, glad you all are here. Please, on the way in, please make sure that you like the stream, share the stream, subscribe if you are new. This content is centered around a lot of issues that happen in the UK. So I hope that you appreciate this viewpoint and it gives you a different alternative viewpoint from people you may have listened to from time to time. But let's get back into this, because I don't know if you looked at the thumbnail of this stream and whether you've actually saw what I saw when I put the thumbnail together. So when you saw the thumbnail of the stream, could you let me know in the chat, what is it that you saw when you looked at this thumbnail? Because this struck me like an epiphany. I was like, raw, really? How did I miss this? And how did we as a people miss this? So I just want to know in the chat, when you saw the thumbnail to this live stream, tell me, what do you see? What is it that I've shown you? What is the picture that you can see? What is your initial thoughts when you saw that? Because there's something which I thought, and I thought, I wonder if anyone clocked onto it. Because you know what kills me again? I believe in symbolism a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not that crazy. I do believe in imagery, but let me know in the chat, what did you see when you saw my thumbnail? I'll wait till you guys have an answer. But yeah, let me know. What is it? What is it that you saw? What is this? What is the pitch that you saw on the thumbnail on the stream? I really, really, really want to know your viewpoints on this, because okay, we've got some answers right now. They're number 10. Okay. That is true. That is true. Anyone else have any other thoughts when they saw that? No? Yay? No, but okay. I saw an Asian. I saw an Asian. I don't know what that's about. KB Black Dove number 10. Okay, so what I'm about to do right now is I'm just about to raise the consciousness right now, because again, when I saw this, I thought there's no way. So I'm about to share my screen a little bit. I'm just gonna show you what I saw and the epiphany, that the revelation I think that I saw. So this is what I saw. This is what the thumbnail of my stream is. Yep, you can all see that. Brilliant. And this is what I first looked at, because you know what kills me when I hear the ceiling about us as black people? I thought we really aren't looking hard enough, because KB hit the nail on the head. You see, when it comes to the seat of power, when it comes to where legislation, where wars are made, where all these things are done, what do you see? I tell you what I see. I see a black fence. I see black gateposts. I see bricks that are black. And I see that black door that says that sweet number 10. So whenever I hear black people, you know, when I was looking at it, I thought myself, raw, if this isn't a message to us as people that the image of power is in the color of our skin, I don't know what you guys have been looking at. Because you know what, the US, they have their White House, but you know what we have? We have the Black House. That's what we have, and that's where we need to be heading into, because at the end of the day, I don't know what it is. I used to think Hebrew Israelites were on some madness when I was talking about black kings of Scotland and black kings of England. I thought, you know what? If this isn't kind of some symbolism that the seat of power that we are in this country is a black house with a black door, black gate, black fence, and black cabs at the end of it, I don't know what you guys have been looking at. This is exactly the seat of power that we need to be headed into right now. Because here's the thing. Truth be told, there is no ceiling for us. And that's the kind of exact thinking that we need right now. Again, we don't have a White House. We have a black house. And we should say that with our chest. And that's what I want to say today. Now, again, all jokes aside and all this kind of other stuff, yes, there are reasons why, as we've seen in the past, and why we have looked at the people who have entered that place. We always do ask the normal question, can we realistically see a black family in the black house, because we need to call it the black house. We don't need to call it 10 Downing Street. Forget 10 Downing Street. We should call this the black house. So from now on, we should call it the black house, 10 Downing Street. That's what we should call it, because that's what it is. Black front door, black bricks, black gates. If you look at the whole entire house on that street, it is the only black house. That's telling you something, people. If that ain't symbolism, if that isn't just giving you a little bit of insight into what's going on and just how powerful that we are, I don't know what to tell you. But all jokes aside, all seriousness aside, the reason why a lot of black people don't see ourselves in this sort of seat of power, and let's just keep it real. When you look at the history of not only just prime ministers, but MPs, a lot of these MPs, let's just be fair, they come from money. They really do. They really, really, really do. See, the real issue in the country, we talk about racism a lot. We talk about white supremacy and critical race theory. We talk about all this kind of stuff, particularly over the last 12 months. But in truth be told, the biggest gap that exists, or say the biggest reason why a lot of people get on in society, particularly over here, is not necessarily your skin color, but it's about who you know, what you know, and where you go to know who you need to know. Because with the exception of a few people who have been in the presidential, in the prime minister's house, the black house, number 10 Downing Street, guess what you see? You see them all. There's a pattern. There's a distinct pattern with all of them, and that is they are all public school educated. Again, there are some notable exceptions. Do not get me wrong. But truth be told, most of them are public school educated. Now, for my people who do not know what that means when I say public school educated, because it is kind of confusing for people who are not in the UK, to be public school educated, it actually means you come from a private school setting. So all public schools in the UK, they're all schools where you have to pay a pretty tidy sum in order to attend that school. So most people in the UK who aren't affluent, who aren't in that socio-economic class of society, they go to something called a state school. Now, a state school is somehow colloquially called a public school, but that's not true. In the UK, a state school is a free school where the state or the government, they would fully fund it. That's what traditionally a lot of people, even in the UK, I've heard them refer to them as public school, but that's not actually the correct terminology. The terminology is that's a state school, and public schools are ones where the elites of the elites go. So if you look at all Boris Johnson, if you look at Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, all these kind of people right here, they've all gone to a public school. They've all been educated in Oxford, Cambridge, they've gone to Eton. You look at the who's who have been in that seat, again, with the exception of a few, and that's the exception that proves the rule, not excludes the rule. They all seem to go to the same schools. And it's the same with the people who are black, of ethnic minority, because this is the next thing as well. Because we talk about who is going to be next in line if you look at ethnic minorities as a whole, not just black people, but ethnic minorities. And someone in the chat was saying the same thing. I think, Sega, you said it about Asians are likely to be the first people. And you know what? I actually agree with that statement, because if you look at the cabinet, now, there are levels to everything. Like there's levels to everything in life. You have levels when it comes to who's in the cabinet. You have levels when it comes to who actually has the final say. You have levels when it comes to who has the seniority when it comes to the cabinet. Now, I'm just going to sort of show you what I'm talking about, or shall I say, I'm just going to tell you what I'm talking about. It's probably a bit better, but the obvious top dog is the prime minister. That's Boris Johnson. But then you have the chancellor of the exchequer. He's the person who looks after the finances. Now, that is an Asian guy by the name of Rishi Sunak. Now, if anyone knows anything about Rishi Sunak, he comes from the same background as what I'm talking about when it comes to these Eton schoolboys. He's married into a billionaire's family, and he himself is of a higher echelon. He went to Wall Street. This is a guy who is not, not your stereotypical person at all. He studied that PPE, what a lot of these politicians do, philosophy, politics, and economics. He studied at Oxford. He gained the MBA at Stanford University. This is not your stereotypical young person that you see. These are all from the same class background. And again, this is a minority. So you see what I'm talking about when I say it's not necessarily about your skin color in the UK. A lot of it is about who you are connected with, your socio-economic background. And again, we look at Priti Patel. Again, if The names I'm going to mention right now, these are the higher echelon. You ever realize when it comes to UK politics, there's about 3 or 4 people you normally know because they are the top echelons of the class. They are the top positions. So these are positions which are usually next in line to potentially, not always, but potentially claim that number 10 spot. Because at the end of the day, if you look at Gordon Brown was a Chancellor of the Exchequer, and then he moved into the Prime Minister spot after Tony Blair left. That's sometimes, in quite a few cases, that's how it happens. Now, Priti Patel, she's Secretary of State for the Home Department. That's all about your immigration, your foreign defense. That's all about that kind of stuff as well. That was the position that Theresa May, she was in. And again, as you can see, that certain position has a certain weight. But where did Priti Patel come from? Where is it that, what's her background? Again, her background, again, is very, very similar. She had a very, very affluent background. She went to a very affluent school. This is what I'm talking about when I say this is what it's like. It's not just about necessarily skin color in this country. It's all about your class. It's all about your socioeconomic background. And it's even the same with the black person who is in the cabinet, not of a higher ranking official, but look at Chuka Umunna again, when I referenced it beforehand. Chuka Umunna, he had a very privileged background. I don't know if people know that, but he did. He had a very privileged background. He wasn't just your stereotypical guy who came from a single mother background. Now, I know people hate identity politics, but truth is the truth. Labour, Conservative, it's all a certain class of people who seem to get the seat of power. And that's what we're missing. We are missing that socioeconomic class at a very high level. Now, Manchester Blue, you asked the question, are blacks in the UK lower class? Now, majority of us, we do fall in that lower socioeconomic class. But again, that's not all of us. We've got to keep it real. Kemi Badenoch, she's one of the one of the most well-known conservative politicians. She's not come from a lower background. If you look at the Secretary for State of Business, Energy, Industrial Strategy, Kwasi Kwarteng, he's a black guy, he's a conservative, but he comes from a very affluent family. He studied at Cambridge University, then went to Harvard on a scholarship. He has a PhD. These aren't your average Joes. So what I'm trying to say right now is there a ceiling in it for us as black people? The ceiling is twofold. Number one, what you can see, because I always believe that if you can see it, you believe it, you go for it. I don't care what it is. There seems to be a fear when it comes to us about being the first. I've realized there always seems to be this first. By the end of the day, once you get over that hurdle, the second hurdle, which is probably the most important hurdle right now, at least right now in the UK, this is the most important hurdle, whether it's male, female, black, white, or whatever, it's your social economics. Do you have the contacts? Do you have the strategy? Do you have have you been to the right schools? Because this is what it comes down to. Have you been to the right schools? Because outside of like Oxford, Cambridge, the Red Brick Universities, so like Durham, Aberdeen, all those kind of other places where they got the Red Brick Universities, which a lot of people are looking for. Listen, you are fighting up a hill and a half, I'm telling you. And this is not about just conservative. This is about Labour as well. Because again, Sir Keir Starmer, his background, even Jeremy Corbyn. You know what makes me laugh about Jeremy Corbyn? He was trying to make it out. And again, you can't control where you were born. You can't control your background. So I'll never begrudge anyone from being born to parents who, let's be honest, wanted to have a better future for their kids. I will never blame anyone for that. That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be looking for. But Jeremy Corbyn, who was like, number one socialist, his own background was a very elite background. Now, he rejected that background because he didn't want to be seen like that, which is why he was always looking scruffy. He always looked unkempt. He always seemed to reject that notion that he came from, money. He never really wanted to bring it up. He always wanted to be thought as one of the people. And I get that. I get it. I get it. That's what Labour's supposed to represent. But in reality, that is not the case when you look at the Labour leaders. The Labour leaders themselves, again, come from the same cloth as the Conservatives. It's just that they just have a different ideological, they have a different viewpoint. That is the only thing. And again, Skittles, man, you said something which is very true as well. He never worked a job in his life beside politics. And this is what happens at the moment. We have professional people who play politics, professional politicians. We have people who have actually not worked a proper job. And this is one thing I always hate as well, because I always think to myself, again, we're doing identity politics, but I always think to myself, how can you run a country if you've never managed managed people, you never managed company, you never had to make those hard decisions, you never had to really work and understand from how the working life is, and also that leadership side. I always think you should have a history of leadership in which lets people know you can make the tough decision, number one, and you can have the empathy and the skills to be able to manage and lead a team well, because that shows your credentials. Right now, it seems to be like, as long as you're from this certain place, certain background, certain region of the UK, that's fine. That's all you need to know. That's it. That's good. That's good. So right now, in regards to, can I see a black prime minister? I'll be honest with you, the numbers stack against us. And I'm not talking about population size, because that's nothing. Because again, I think Asians are in prime position. Again, you got Rishi Sunak as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Priti Patel. You got for life of me, I keep forgetting who the Mayor of London is. Some of you guys will correct me. The Mayor of London is Thingy Khan. What's his name? Sadiq Khan. My bad. You got Sadiq Khan as the Mayor of London. Again, Boris Johnson went from the Mayor of London to the Prime Minister, and that's another thing as well. The first ethnic minority as the Mayor of London is not a black person; it's an Asian person. You see what I mean? So what we need to have, I believe, is we need to have more blacks in a certain socioeconomic class. I know, it shouldn't be like that, but it is what it is. I have to tell you the real. So I would love to know, and I want to open the panel because I don't really want to be chatting too long. I feel like I chat too much sometimes, so I'm just going to open the stream. I want to hear your viewpoints. I want to know exactly two things. I want to know, do you find it a realistic expectation that we will have a prime minister who is black? And I also want to know, where do you think would it even matter where they come from? Because one of the things I've realized with this is, and ZZ Mills got this. Whoever knows who ZZ Mills is, she does a lot of interviews with drill rappers. But this I know black people sometimes they may reject him, but she was actually cussed off or tried to get almost shamed because she actually went to a private school. I was like, I don't know why that's even such an issue, but that's another thing as well. My thing is this: do you see that as a hindrance in terms of if a black person from a certain background, you think they'll have any chance? Because a lot of times we do play identity politics, particularly in this day and age. And we saw it with Sean Bailey. We saw it with other politicians. They need like a niche. They need like you're a black prime minister. You need to be able to relate to black people. And, let's be honest, if you come from a certain background, you're going to have difficulties anyway. But for black people, it may be double the pain. But I just want to know, from how do you see this going down? Because truth be told, I don't see any standout candidates, because we've not really been in those power seat positions. I mentioned 2 or 3 power seat positions really, but there's about 4 power seat positions in the cabinet where if you're likely to get there, you're likely to have a better shot of becoming the prime minister just based on history. Now, those positions are the Chancellor of the Exchequer, you have the Secretary for State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development, you have the Home Department. They are, and obviously the State for Defense, but they are usually the seats in which are, I would say, the most revered. They're the seats which gets the most spotlight. They're the seats that really are reserved for, we would say, the best of the best, particularly the Chancellor of the Exchequer. If you're messing around with the budget, you are the right-hand man of the Prime Minister. Now, you also have an issue with UK politics, which I hate, because we can't actually vote for an actual political party in the same way as, let's say, the Americans can. So do you know, once the Americans gone through their primaries, they choose who the candidate for the Labour Party is. The Democratic Party, they choose a candidate for the Republican Party. The people can actually vote for, are they going to vote for Boris Johnson or Boris Johnson? Are they going to vote for the red or the blue? Whereas us, we vote for our local MPs. Our MPs make up the seat of the House, and therefore the Prime Minister gets elected. And if you're not part of any of the Conservative party, if you're not their membership or part of the Labour membership, you don't get a say as to which party or say which member is going to be the head of your leadership. So if you're a Labour supporter, but you're not actually in the Labour membership and paying a fee, because you have to pay a fee to become part of the memberships, you don't get a say as to who's going to be the Labour leader. Now, you may have your viewpoints, but that don't mean anything. That don't mean anything at all. You have to have a membership either with the Conservatives or the Labour, Lib Dems, depending on who you align with, depending on who you vote. And that's exactly how they actually get into power. And then, as you know, you have the elections, and then you vote for your local MP in the constituency, and then that's how the government gets formed, as long as they have a majority, which is like 650 MPs, 650 seats. That's usually how, no, not 650, about 400 something odd seats, or even 300. But yeah, you have to get a majority when it comes to the MPs. If not, you know the rest. It becomes like a hung parliament, and then you have to form a coalition, which happened in 2010. But that withstanding, though, and Skittles, man, you didn't answer a question at all. And this is what I want to know. This is what I want to know. The biggest question is, will a black prime minister help the black community? Now, is that going to be one of your biggest things? Because when we look at President Obama, a lot of people said he did not help the black community. Matter of fact, he didn't even show up to any of their functions when it comes to the events. He pretty much dodged every question when it comes to black issues. He pretty much was on the side of, let's be honest, especially his second term, LGBT rights. He really didn't do anything, so what I hear, in regards to the black community. So my question is this: is that a big sticking point? Do you really care if they have a manifesto or they care about the black community? Is that what you're looking for, or are you looking for just representation? Because a lot of people believe that they want to, especially for the first. I think for the first one, a lot of people have a different viewpoints in this, in regards to their role, their stature, whether they should actually help the black community. Because at the end of the day, they're the prime minister of the whole UK. So that includes Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. That's all four countries that form the UK government. Now, do you see that as a big issue? Do you see that as someone that you're looking for? What would you actually want from a black prime minister? Is that exactly how you think it will lead? Because I don't know. To me personally, I mean, I do think we are part of the UK. So I think if we look at ourselves as part of the UK, if it helps the UK, then we should actually have help, if you see what I mean. I always see it as one of the same in certain aspects. If you help the UK community, you help the black community. I don't know. Maybe I think a bit differently. But yeah, let me know. Let me know whether they'll whether that's your driving force as to whether you would actually want a black prime minister at all. But yeah, I mean, and yeah, here's the thing. There will never be a situation, on God, in life where just because you have a black prime minister, a black president, a black leader of whatever institution, there will never be in life, racism will never just completely absolve. It's never, ever, 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 ever going to just be, that's it. We have now solved the racism issue. Because here's what I believe when it comes to racism. I'm just going to sidetrack a little bit while I wait for people to join the panel. The panel is open. So if people want to come in and join and have a discourse, by all means, let me know. But when it comes to this racism piece, and that's why, again, I don't see this as being like the be all end all. Listen, racism will never, ever, ever be fixed. It will never be a situation where racism does not exist. I don't know what people are really, what planet people are on. I don't know what situation they're living in. Racism exists because people have just prejudice anyway. It's not just about racism, it's about prejudice. People don't like short people. People don't like ugly people. People don't like too tall people. People don't like fat people. People don't like skinny people. People don't like, well, I say people, white people don't like ginger people, people with ginger hair. You know, there's all types of prejudice and xenophobia, which is just like, listen, when it comes to this racism piece, it will never, ever, ever be fixed with any sort of representation of, for example, if we've had two women prime ministers, does that mean sexism is over? Does that mean misogyny is over? No. But at the end of the day, it's just a sign that it's maybe not as big of a deal as we once thought it was. And that's kind of how I'm going with it. And Blue said the fact she did nothing for women in politics. But let me ask you this question, though. Do you not see that with Thatcher being in politics, that actually makes sure that, you know, I don't know, women feel as if they can achieve? Because I hear this thing about Thatcher did nothing for women in politics. But I'm like, well, hold on a second. Isn't getting there enough? And that's what I want to know. Isn't getting there for a black prime minister, isn't that just enough to show that, guess what, you can do it? You see what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. I always hear this stuff about, you have to do something for me. You have to do something for this. I'm like, okay, but hold on. What about getting there? Isn't that not a sign? Isn't that not the inspiration that people need to be like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. I don't know. You tell me. But KB, how's it going? Welcome to the stream.
Thanks, bro. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, man. Doing all good. Do
you know what? Yeah. Good, bruv. Literally, just what you, as you were saying when I was connecting, is what I was thinking. Do you know what? It's to the point of, okay, if we had a black prime minister, right? Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's good. A black prime minister. Ideally, yes, you want them to sort the black communities or address the black community's problems, right? And to be perfectly honest, even addressing the black community's problems doesn't, I'm not saying it doesn't require much, but there are groups. I'm going to try and highlight some of these as well. Pockets and groups, you know, within our sectors that are trying to get their voices heard to highlight the issues. They just don't have maybe the platform, so that will help. However, I do agree with the sentiments a lot of the guys, what a lot of people are saying in the chat as well. The black community probably would reject him because ideally, you know, a black prime minister will probably come from, as you said, one of these affluent, particular universities, from a particular family background, have gone to a particular place, know certain people. And, you know, let's be honest, if it's going to be a black person, they're very likely to come from a certain class and a likely very conservative background, very likely. So the average black person, you know, unfortunately, do you know what I'm getting? I don't even want to say our race is just getting on my nerves sometimes. Anyway, unfortunately, you know, we are going to give them the coconut treatment, and do you know what I mean? And this person, but you know what? Yeah, even if that was all this was to happen, I'm at the point of, because as I've got older, I've started to change my mind a little bit on the black community, because you know, sometimes we can be sort of a hypocrite and the cause of our own demise, right? It's like we want but we don't want. So I could see us doing that, but I could see us at the same time wanting that person and their cabinet to help, because I can only imagine, you know, speculation, but if there was a black prime minister, I imagine maybe one, two, maybe more members of their cabinet may be black too. You know, I don't know if they're gonna, you know.
Oh yeah, they're definitely going to pressure on him to make sure the cabinet's pretty much all black. If possible, they'll definitely be pressure.
You know what I mean? It's likely, right?
Yeah, honestly.
So, but what I think is good, even if there is some pushback from the so-called black community, right? I think in it will be good for the general UK public to see. And the reason why I say this is because it's this sort of weird type of representation. You got one aspect, like you said, which is fantastic, which I think as well, which is not so much good enough for us, but it's a great start, which is, for example, having a black, even a mayor, even if I had a black mayor of London or something, that would be fantastic for our image, right? Even if there is pushback from certain parts of our community, at least then that will, at least even as a little bit, go some way towards people stop identifying all of us as one type of person, as, you know, all putting us all under one umbrella. Maybe it will start to see that, because, you know, start to see that there are different types of us.
But how feasible is that? That's the problem.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it would go all the way, but I think it would help. But as well, this is all at the same time will be a big social experiment at the same time, because if it all goes your way, then. But I'm not 100% confident that we'll have, you know, that person, the cabinet will have the whole black community's, you know, backing, which, you know, will definitely help. I know only 4%, but anyway,
it's kind of impossible. It's kind of impossible though when you think about it, because if you look over at the States, they, in order to get the black vote, what did they have to do? They went and grabbed Cardi B and interviewed Cardi B.
They have to pander.
This is the face of our community. And what did Corbyn do over here? Go to Stormzy. Like, we're not getting anyone with actual proper, how should I say, like, I don't know.
It's a certain class of people where they'd only go to a grind or something like that. It's not like,
it's like they have to go to our celebrities, and not even celebrities that have like our scientists or our philosophers. No, they go straight to our rappers and music artists, because in their eyes that's what we like, and unfortunately it works. In conjunction to us making up less than 4%, we make up 3% of the population. How feasible is that? If we get an actual stand-up individual, they're going to get pushback from our own 3%, let alone the over 80%.
That's a good
majority white.
Good point. Before you can continue, because you're new to this show, so I wanted to give you a proper sort of introduction a little bit. But thank you everyone in the chat. Please make sure that you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. So we'll thank you for coming to the panel. I think, you're definitely your first time on this panel. I don't know if you've been watching the clouds beforehand, but no, appreciate it. Let me ask this question, because you made a point about two things really, about how we like celebrities, and that's kind of what Jeremy Corbyn did, and that's kind of what I'm assuming the first black prime minister will have to do. But do you think the better strategy will be to not go to the black community, because that's not really the majority of the population? So you know what? Forget about it. We're gonna have to go for the numbers as opposed to going for our own people. Or do you feel like that will backfire?
Strategically speaking, it would backfire, because if we immediately start, if we actually go to the core issues and start addressing the country as a whole, we'll immediately start getting the coons, the sellouts, the all sorts of derogatory terms that will accompany such a tactic. And then once the other demographics see that our own are literally berating potentially our first ever like prime minister candidate, it's not going to work. Let alone we make
Wouldn't that then?
3%, but we're so vocal, especially on
I,
Twitter.
I agree. I agree with you, but then wouldn't wouldn't that be time then for those of us that don't feel that way to make a visible stance on it? Yes, we're only 4%, but look how much attention is paid on us. You know how much of an impact we have in this country. 4%. We're scattered all over this country: London, Bristol, Huddersfield, Liverpool, Manchester, Nottingham, wherever. But we make such an impact for only 4%. And that's 4% now.
Actually, if you go look at the statistics, we're not actually that scattered. We're actually built up in like major cities, not really all over the place. If you go to certain places, I've actually experienced this before, that they don't even refer to you as black, they still refer to you as coloured.
Coloured,
It's
I know.
backwards.
But that's also
I've
an
been
old,
to little
that's also an
towns.
old school term. That is because my grandma before she passed, she used to use the word colour. So also, you're right. It's also an old school term as well. So yeah, I get you. But we are in the major urban cities in the UK. That's where you'll find black people majority. There are a couple of ones changing now, like which aren't so in the news, which people are going to. But yeah, in the most part, we're in the major cities. Right, just want to sort of go around the panel. Marathon Man, bless up. How's it going?
Hey, White Matters, how you doing, boss? Good?
Yeah, doing well. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. KB, bless up, brother. Bless up.
Yo, G. What you,
Yeah,
bro?
and
What
the
you
panel.
saying?
Yeah,
You
I'm good, man. I'm good. Good. You know what? I kind of caught the panel late, but I could see us having a black prime minister in the UK, you know. But the thing is, we shouldn't really expect much from a black prime minister. Do you see what I mean? Like in America, when they had Barack Obama, the black people were expecting him to really make a big difference. But if we had a black prime minister here, it'd be good for the black community to see a black man reach that status. But I don't think he would do anything to really better the black community, to be honest.
Why do you think that?
Because in the UK, it's still
Institutionally.
That's it, institutionally white. You know what I mean?
That's precisely my point.
We are in a
white country. Let's be real.
Yeah, and we still have like a royal family, so we have the House of Lords. So it would just be like a figurehead. I don't think it'll really be able to make a big impact to the community. But it doesn't matter. Like you said about Margaret Thatcher, her being the first woman helped empower women. So other figurehead, if we think a black man as prime minister to look up to, it would definitely help the black youths. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't expect him to do anything to help the black cause.
This was going to say, because you mentioned it, and obviously as a figurehead, I mean, again,
yeah,
I see it two ways. I see it in a way of, and let me know if you see the same way, as one is it can be a figurehead for inspiration. Also, it could be a way of saying, well, you've had your black prime minister, therefore you should shut up about racism from now on ever. I don't hear that mess because you've reached the pinnacle. You know you see what I mean?
Yeah, because I think that's what they did in America with Barack Obama. Do you see what I mean? Because when Barack came in, he just pacified all the black people. Do you get me? So a lot of the bullshit that was going on, it's like, you got a black prime minister, be happy, or black president. You're right, you know. So they would do it in a strategic way. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, they would do that. They'd be like, yeah, you got a black prime minister, stop moaning. And nothing would really change. But I suppose the small benefits that we would get from having a black prime minister, it would be worth it. You see what I mean?
No, I do.
How feasible is it with our ethnic image as well?
What do you mean?
Because, but if you think about it, if you think about the ethnic image of Asians, and when we refer to Asians in this country, we normally refer to Indians and Pakistanis. It's normally hardworking, owns a small business, which stats do show and back this. Constantly, even at school, they're the people that always are constantly going the extra mile, But then if you look at our ethnic image, it's kind of the worst in the country. And then we'd have to be trying to contend with that, let alone if we try to pretend that, okay, not even pretend, no, yeah, show that, okay, we have an exception here. But then you're still going to have people literally pointing out some of the nonsense that happens in some of the major cities.
But the thing is, though, that isn't that not the same over in the US where they have the black people have not the greatest image, let's be fair, but yet still you could at least try and say, okay, that's going to hopefully help change the image, because that's what this is going to do, isn't it?
But
Like,
there's more of them there. There's more of them there that you can still say there's still a notable percentage that isn't like that.
But it's not about
with us.
Do you know what? But do you know what? It's like I said, I think like me and White Matter are going to talk about it next week. A lot of times the perception, basically, we need to market ourselves a bit better, because that perception of black people is, like I say, a small percentage. Just like the percentage, like you said, like the perception of Indian and Pakistanis, they've got businesses and that, which is really just a perception. You know what I mean? It's not.
It's not true, though. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. The stats, and also when I was looking at the rich list of times, that they do have businesses, and a lot of the billionaires is from the business class.
But what I'm trying to say is it's a small percentage that do. The majority of them don't. Majority just have a minimum wage, low skilled jobs. Do you see what I mean? But we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people seem to think that the Pakistanis and Asians are just doing so good. Like I'm in Birmingham, my group in Leicester, and the stats, when you really look at the stats, you know, high unemployment, unskilled labor that most of the Pakistani and Bangladeshi people do, but people don't know that. But like I said, we need to really look at that, really, because.
I agree.
But again, sorry, one minute. The perception is that they are very hardworking, and the perception for black men, especially, is that, you know, we're basically bums, and hopefully we can change that.
No, I 100% agree about image. Image, funny enough, is everything. As much as you're right, you look for the layers, but image is everything. And I know in Leicester, particularly, there's been an uncovering of slave labor when it comes to, and Leicester's full of Indians, Pakistanis, Asians. So I'm with you there. So I know Asians anyway like that, and black people, so I know how it is. So I get what you're saying completely, 100%. Yeah, right? but the thing is, sorry, my White Matters. Yeah, and again, like with black people, again, a lot of our dysfunctions on display. You know what I mean? Like with the Asians, they keep it in house. You know what I mean? No, I get you. But I think one of the things about the perception is that there's enough of a high echelon of them in positions where we are not. Our high echelon are people who are rappers, athletes who don't have a good image. You see what I mean? So we'll talk about it next week in full.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Right, let me go on the panel. Ozzy, you're a new person. I've not seen you before. How's it going?
Hi, it's good to be with you guys. So in regards to that topic and all that, you know, I find it to be quite interesting, to be fair. You know, I always find idea of, for instance, of a black prime minister. Yeah, I do see in my lifetime and all that. But I do agree with KB Jones in regards to, you know, it has to be somebody that's conservative leaning, you know, even somebody that is privately educated, you know, and that person in question has to, you know, for instance, be from a family that earns, you know, a combination, essentially like combination of six figure salary between his parents. So you know, I thought about it and all that, and I was thinking to myself, you know, Sean Bailey was running for mayor the other month, and he didn't get a vote.
But he did manage to come a very close second. Apparently,
very close second indeed.
Yeah, he got more votes than a lot of people predict.
And you know, I was quite shocked that, you know, that Sadiq Khan actually won the election. I thought he was going to lose the election, given the fact that, you know the state of the city, you know, in terms of the crime rates and all that. You know, the economic downturn as well, and when you take all that into consideration, then you would think that everything's stacking against him, something like that. But unfortunately, he came out the other side.
I was going to ask a follow up on that, because you raised a point, which there was a stream I did 2 days ago about Black Conservative MPs, and you mentioned that in order for this to take place, you more see it on that side, the leaning towards the Conservative side, whereas traditionally, a lot of the Black MPs or the first Black Prime Minister, in a lot of people's heads, it will be a Labour politician. Why do you think, in your mind, it'll have to come from the Conservative side as opposed to the Labour side?
Let's just say, for instance, if it's a Conservative side, you're gonna have essentially like a Black Conservative, like for instance, like Trevor Phillips. Trevor Phillips, I consider him like now a person. It's like a stick. He's a stick here that essentially whacks the liberal people and all that,
But he's Labour, actually. Do you know what? I looked at Phillips. He's Labour, but he gets bashed. He's like an
the thing is, okay, but at the end of the day, a Black Conservative is somebody that doesn't get patronized by the left. They don't say to people, well, it's racism, such and such happens and all that, even though, they explain things in a way that it makes them look like as if they're children or something like that. Essentially, they tend to explain something that, for instance, it's not that person's fault that he done it, even though that person is 35 years old. They try to make it sound like it's somebody who's 9 years old and all that, like below criminal responsibility and all that.
No, I hear you, and one of the
it's that type of patronized behavior that they do and all that. But if it's like a Black Conservative, Prime Minister and all that, I'll be happy because for many years, like particularly in the political correct context, a lot of those there's left-leaning MPs and politicians that were patronizing people of color, particularly Black people in this country and in other Western countries.
Because they
and they do it to the point of for instance, of not even being not even being concerned about the consequences of that. For instance, in terms of losing support and all that. A couple of days ago, I heard that across the pond in America, Joe Biden said to, I think he said on one of his speech and all that he's going to be doing a vaccine shot in one of the barber shops in the cities. All that.
Oh, no, that. It's just PR. I hate that kind of stuff.
It's just and some guy when a joke is saying that, well, like if you don't get a vaccine in the barbershop, that means you're not Black. I find that too funny though. But like, I would love to see a Black Conservative Prime Minister in my lifetime, all that. But I wouldn't like to see a Labour one. To be fair, if you have like a Diane Abbott or or the other one from Northwest London, what's her name?
Dawn Butler.
Dawn Butler, or David Lammy and all that. For some reason, David Lammy. Okay, he said he was talking about a report one time. Yeah, and he said something racism in the criminal justice or something like that. But he didn't even explain what was the racist part of it.
Do you know what? I beg you, please, not him. Like anybody but him, bro. Like,
my man's been in that seat since I want to say
he's been there for time, no?
Been there for I want to say 87, but that can't be that long. But he's been there for time.
I think it's 2005.
2005, is it? Okay, not that long.
I think so.
Yeah. When that's Diane Abbott, been at 1987. But seriously, time. But yeah, absolutely not. But no,
I do understand at that time. Okay, Diane Abbott's, being an MP and all that. In 1980s, it was a very racist society. And a person who happens to be Black, could potentially, essentially be a positive figure and all that. I do understand that, and I do understand the concept of it, even though I wasn't there and all that. But we're looking at the climate back then. I do understand that, that a Black person in that borough would think that if a person looks like he's an MP and all that, then it would be great. It could potentially improve the status of people of color in the UK and all that. Particularly,
can I ask a question to the panel? Do you mind what matters?
Yeah, sure. After that, and then we'll go to the CMA because you've been waiting patiently. But yeah, go ahead, KB. Go ahead.
Yeah. Then I'll shut up. Right. So 2 things. So do you think there's a possibility that if this was going to happen and happen successfully, that time may be on our side? And what I mean by that is, for example, like we just brought up, in previous times, especially in this country, the racism was, more obvious and much more pushback. But compared to like, not even say compared to, but a lot of those people nowadays are a certain age. They're like 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So they're kind of, sorry to say the term, dying out. And, a lot of their offspring don't think like them. They know their family, they know their families do think a certain way, but they're not as influenced. A lot of the young ones, from previous generations were directly influenced. They're going to be less. So, and, this country has become, more multicultural all over. People have been different races and literally grown up together. Still with possible racist grandparents that are living now. But 20, 30, 40 years, a lot of these people are going to be gone or really old or old enough not to be able to influence things like Parliament. So I'm wondering, is it possible if time's going to be on our side? We might have to wait another 50 years.
But do you know what?
Do you guys, you know what I mean? So what do you guys think of that? That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. You know what, KB? It's like, you just have to look at the Black Lives Matter protest. Like you get like white people protesting. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, anti-protest.
In my opinion, a lot of that was virtue signaling because when you think
about
it,
you're going hard in the paint. Sorry, go ahead.
when I think about it, right, and from people I know, and also if you truly actually get into deep discussions and when they trust you, there is a lot of implicit. It's no longer explicit as it used to be before. There's a lot of implicit bias and racism still. It may not be so overt. It's not going to be in your face. But
you know what?
What's going on behind the scenes? I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, but you know what?
I'm not saying it's gone, but I'm just saying I don't know.
No, but what I'm saying is, we know it's there, but what I'm trying to say, even the fact that they're actually coming out and protesting alongside for Black issues, the fact that they're actually doing it in public, we know what's like. Maybe they don't really mean it, but the fact they're actually showing a show that they're with Black people, it's the image. That's what we need. And I don't care if they really like us. It doesn't matter if they're helping us on our behalf. We'll work with them, but we know that they're inherently there's issues there. But the fact that they're actually doing that, you wouldn't see that like in the 80s and the 90s.
Well, it's never celebrating anything positive. That's the issue. It's always something negative, such as exactly. It's always okay. We need to go help these people out because they're in the gutter, or look at these clowns rapping, or they're running around playing football or playing basketball for us. There's never any. Look at this businessman. Let's go interact with him. Let's go connect with his network. Blah. No, it's never that.
There's always the chattering classes. Like they keep, this poor white middle class. They keep just looking down at poor people, especially ethnic minority poor people. They just really have this sort of security complex. I've just noticed in my circles.
I just say this last thing. I totally understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is if we can take advantage of them, we should, because they would do the same thing to us. Take advantage of them the best way we could. Like I said,
use them and ditch them.
The poor Black people, this and that, we need to help. Help us.
Guilt them.
Don't be too proud. Just say, all right then, give us your help.
Guilt trip them.
Yeah. They would do that to us.
We become the country's literal charity case.
It's all good. I mean, nothing wrong. Everyone needs help sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
We're too damn proud. We've got too much pride sometimes, and we need. If you want to step up there, sometimes everyone gets a little help. Like this country was built off the money they gave for free slaves. Do you know what I mean? That compensation. You get me?
What's next? We need water aid adverts for people living in North London.
Yeah, straight. Take it, man. Straight, man.
I'll see the advert.
we deserve it, man. We deserve it. So forget the pride thing. This country was built off scheming. Do you know what I mean? Like, all these big banks, this was built off scheming, and they hustle that money.
The country's joke.
That's the game, man. That's the game that's played. That's the game that's played. Since day one.
That's why I look at it.
Nah, answer. See you, mate. I want to get you really in there. I know you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah.
Team in the chat beforehand. Thank you for coming on the stream. I appreciate you. Just before you do that, I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching right now. The 20 people, please like the Blood Clot stream. Subscribe if you are new, and let's get into it. So, see you, mate. Thanks for joining. And what are your overall thoughts, man?
Cool. Thank you for everyone for joining. Yeah, for joining as well. I was gonna say I do believe that it might be I'll say mixed race prime minister, and I think it's going to be in Conservatives, not Labour, just because Conservatives will always know how to, how do I say, like, they know how to adapt to the times. They know how to have tradition, but also now to adapt with the times. We've seen this, like, you know, in the sort of late 18th century with like the landowners and then the captors class, and then they did it with, you know, with the middle classes, and then Margaret Thatcher with the females. And I think they might do it with ethnic minorities. I believe it would be a mixed race guy, and then his wife would probably be white, because we live in a very like integrated society, whilst the US, they have like very segregated societies. So if Barack Obama had a white wife, it just will assimilate, and it doesn't represent white society in America that's quite pure in like the one drop rule and stuff, and they don't want to see a white female with a black guy in those. Yeah.
Let me ask you on that question, because you brought up a topic which on this channel gets quite heated, and just in general, you said something there. So are you basically saying that it's almost, to be safe, it has to be a mixed prime minister? Because I mentioned, I don't know if he was here on the stream earlier, Chuka Umana, he was a mixed race who was touted as the next President Obama during the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And he had a white wife. So are you saying to me, in order for us to get in, it has to be, because let's be honest, the children are going to be pretty much white, they ain't going to be black.
Practically, yeah.
The only way that we can actually get in, you can't be a proper black family. You see what I'm saying? Is that what you're saying?
It can, but it will take further. I feel like in Britain, like, you know, we see a lot of interracial marriages and stuff like that, and consciously or subconsciously, maybe that does help in terms of assimilating to British society, because this country is a white country, you know, historically and stuff. And with Chuka Umunna, he was promoted as being this next Barack Obama, you know, with his wife, and you know, there was a lot of pressures of him with the Labour to step up. And when he did try to step up in, you know, being the leader of the Labour Party, there was a lot of like pushbacks within his party of not him like doing enough, or him doing too enough. So that's that blockage. I do think a mixed race person would help white people in Britain to appease the fact that an ethnic person will take in charge.
Yeah, because
but I think
someone in the chat mentioned mentioned Akala, and I was like, "Why Akala of all people?" But yeah, I suppose he would fit sort of the demographics of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, because he's mixed race, but not because of the way he acts, because he's quite working class in culture. You need to play the game, you know, like we have very clearly quite racist society, but also it's quite elitist as well. Like Diana Abbott, she kind of conformed as well in terms of like being more posher, speaking more well-spoken, hanging more upper middle class.
She annoys me when she speaks. Sorry, continue.
she's quite slow. I thought she had a learning disability. I thought she actually had. My family was saying, "Oh, is it, you know, is it saying
I'm
that,
so
like,
confused how she got to Cambridge."
I think she is smart, but I do think she just I don't know what it is. I thought she has a learning disability or something, but people do take mick of her. Yeah. But anyways, what I was saying, so I was saying with it would be probably better with a mixed race person, because it will help with the white appeal. But with Akala, because has very like a roadman sort of working class attitude, it just would be quite, you know, seen quite as discussed, especially because he's not white himself. And so it would be someone of like upper middle class, or maybe new money. So, yeah. But I do think within our lifetime it can happen, but I think Asians will probably do it.
This is what I think. I think Asians,
because you've seen a Conservative.
Yeah, sorry. You're right. I think Asians will be the first, if any, because if you look at the positions in the cabinet, what they're holding right now and held, they got Chancellor of the Exchequer down, they got the Home Secretary down. They're like the key positions in the cabinet. Whereas us as blacks, we've never
True,
really
that's
hit
true.
those positions.
That
We've
is
never
true.
hit those positions at all. So I think you're right. And even
True.
Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. I think you're right.
Speak on, yeah. They're really like they know how to operate. They're really like on code. They know how to operate. They know how to, despite different branches like Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Indians, all religious. They understand they're Asian. They understand what they need to be doing and how to infiltrate power in white society. I do see even some of them like Rishi Sunak. His wife was Asian, a billionaire, so-called billionaire's daughter. But the rest of them do marry white, but with white, it will probably be upper middle or like a wealthy white person to, establish them further, So I do think that has a promote to like help if we want a black prime minister. Have you guys ever seen the show Would There Be a Black Prime Minister on BBC One?
I may have beforehand, but I can't remember. So I'm going to say no.
Okay, the guy's called David, I think Harwood. Harwood. Yeah, him.
The actor. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on BBC. I was on BBC Two. They did like a long documentary. You can watch it on YouTube. And basically, they spoke about like how can a black person enter into elite circles, into in Parliament, and they talked about like how they were saying that it was 1 in 6 million for a black person being working class. For a white person, be 1 in 1 in a million, and then for a white wealthy person, be 1 in 2,000. So you see the fact that race and class will help in terms of getting into power. Yeah.
And this is it. And thank you everyone for your participation. I want to open the panel so anyone can jump in. And there's two questions I want to ask really. But the first question is this really. Do you think if there is a black prime minister, it would be a woman or a man? Because again, we've had 2 female prime ministers before, Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May. So it's not as if females cannot get into that position as we've shown. Do you think it'd be more palatable for society to see a black woman there, or do you think it'll be a black man first? What do you think?
I think it'll be a black man. I think it'll be a man.
Yeah.
I think it's because I think people just assume, like men are more dominant, men are more empowered. And when we say black prime minister, everyone's not thinking of a woman. No one's thinking of Diana Albert. Most people are going to think of a man, maybe Trevor Phillips, David Lammy, even Bim Apomi from the Conservative government. So it's probably could be a man. If it was a woman, it can happen, but I think it'll be harder for her to get in power, especially because she's not white.
I can't imagine a white man voting for a black woman.
It's just antithesis. It's odd. It's weird. Like,
you know what?
It's just,
you know what? But like thinking about it now, that question, I could see it would make sense for it to be a black woman, to be honest.
I can see it making sense, but I'm not seeing it being feasible.
No, but they can make it work in terms of the way they're going with the society. They could make that work with a black woman. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of ridiculous, but I could see that more than a black man, to be honest.
Maybe in Labour Party, maybe like a British Kamala Harris. She probably have to be mixed race. I
could see it more than a black man, because
maybe in the Labour Party, but I do think
I think with a black man, it might be too much of a strong positive image for black people for the UK. I don't know if they're ready for that. Do you see what I mean? So, and
this is it. I mean, Skittles man, I'm really comment on here. Is a black man look too domineering? Because this is the thing as well. I mean,
yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned before, CMA, about if it's a mixed person have a white wife. Now, do you think to be acceptable, like with a lot of black leaders, David Lammy does it, Sean Bailey, they all have white wives. So can you see like even like a black family, even if it's a black woman, can you see that happen? Or to be
maybe if she's mixed race? Like, honestly,
there needs to be a relatability factor.
Sorry. Are you saying that it must be a white?
I'm not saying it must be, but I'm just saying if you want to get into power, and this is not just for black, it can be for even other ethnics, establish yourself with someone, I suppose, that's more palatable because you are the antithesis of society and and historical tense. I think if a black guy did get into power, his wife will be either white,
and it kind of like shows
something on his life.
It's like you're not with the general consensus.
Exactly, like because Barack Obama, he's mixed race. His mum is white, his dad is Kenyan, and his wife is Black American. But that was kind of like for America, they're quite segregated that time, and he wasn't even African American. He's actually Kenyan American, and he married also to Michelle Obama. Maybe also that political reasoning with African Americans to get them on side, and then with white society saying like, okay, you can be Black and be this sort of power couple and not taint up females or whatever their views that they have. But I don't think so in England. So we're so integrated in society, and we're so like with interracial like marriages and marrying it out, it's just not for the white gays be that palatable. But you never know. We can see the two Black couple with Afro hair and African clothing. That would be lovely to see.
This is it, and I was going to say that
I love to see that. Yeah.
What you're saying is so true in regards to stats, how we not only integrate, but the thing is, Asians integrate, but they don't marry out at the rates that we do. Stats prove it all over. Because a lot of times they keep their culture, they like to keep their culture, whereas we have so much self-esteem issues, and it's a whole thing. And I'm just like this. Don't it? To me, doesn't it devalue this whole? Because black community is based on Black families. Don't you think it devalues it?
Yeah, sure.
The highest position that to get there, you have to, let's be honest, be with a white partner, whether it be because Kemi Badnock, I just put this on the screen, Skittles Man Reloaded. She's getting all the attention right now, and she's married to a white boy. And it's just like, to be palatable in that level of society for Black people, it's almost as if it can't be a Black family. I don't, you know what I mean? At least together, at least. I've not seen a Black MP with correct me if I'm wrong, who's got a Black family together. So do you think that has to be palatable? Does that make sense, everybody?
Because the image of a Black family, just, how should I say? I don't know. I must sound so cynical, but the image of a Black family, at least in the UK, is not at the same level as any of its counterparts at all.
But do you know what? Sorry, do you know what? The image of a Black family, the Black woman and children.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Haven't you seen how many TV shows do you see? They have the white parents together, Asian parents together, and then it's a Black parent with single mother with like 3 kids. They're living in a council estate. One of them's probably went to go join a gang, and one's probably in prison.
Okay, do you know what? You lot are making me think. Okay, so then who do you think they'll be more tolerable of, a Black male prime minister or a Black female prime minister?
I'm gonna say Black male.
Black male.
I'm gonna say Black male. I think the female's just not even anything wrong with Black females, but it's just, I think it's the fact that she's a woman as well and she's Black. It's just much the anticipation. Even Margaret Thatcher, despite, but she had to somewhat conform because she actually comes from a working class background. She comes from Grantham, right?
But then that's the point. That's exactly the point.
And she married a rich guy. But
what I'm saying, if you have a Black woman, it's either to control. It's control her. Do you see what I mean? If you have a Black man, it could go the wrong way.
I get what you mean, but you're entering into like a white institution, that has historical presence, with colonialism stuff. They're gonna be more Black man or female. They're gonna submit to somewhat. They're not gonna end racism like left wing or right wing. They're not gonna end racism. They're probably they might give some little trinkets if it's left wing, right wing. They might give other little trinkets, but it's not gonna end racism.
But I'm saying I'm not expecting anything to change. It's just a figurehead.
You shouldn't.
But then having a Black woman, could we know that the prime minister or the president doesn't really have the power? Do you know what I mean?
It's the people behind them.
Exactly. They need to be able to control whoever that person is, and I think it would just look better for this country not to have because if you have someone, a Black man, like even like David Lemmy or someone like that, that's even though it's kind of, I don't really rate him, it's a strong Black image, isn't it?
It's quite cool. Yes, I give you that.
The problem I have with a lot of these even the Black MPs is that they don't even seem like a strong leader. You know what I mean? It's like even the image of the Black men in power, don't they seem a little bit just either they're not they're docile, or they're just completely incompetent. It's like,
but you know what? To be in that level of society, you have to conform.
You do have to submit a bit.
Even that's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, even like with what I do, like you have to be. You can't really be
You can't be
out
truly
on bad.
yourself.
No,
Yeah.
no, you can't. You can't really be yourself. You got to kind of small yourself up a little bit and humble yourself. Because when you're black, you can be seen as threatening, which is ridiculous.
A threat to
But
the state.
it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So imagine being in Parliament and them traditions.
Exactly,
and
because
that
they're very
culture.
old. They're very like it's weird. Like Britain has so much class
Yep.
divide. Like it's just messed up. Like a white poor person can't even be prime minister. Only I think the one he did was, I can't remember. He was a Labour. I can't remember what's his name. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was just before Margaret Thatcher.
James
The guy's name.
Callaghan. James.
Something,
James
yeah,
Callaghan,
but he had to conform. He comes from the north, and he had to conform upwards. And like it's hard for them. Like it's going to be twice or 3 times hard for us. Like especially we have royalty, we have aristocracy. Yeah.
But like I say, even like in the court system, like where I work, it, like when you go in there, when you're in there, it's so pompous and still, not much has really changed over 100, 200 years. It's still the same.
Centuries.
I do like traditional. Do you know what? There's something about tradition.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know it's not.
It's not. I'm not saying it's bad. That's what. Hold on. Sorry. 1 second, guys. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Because I like tradition as well, and there's nothing wrong with kind of conforming in a way, but it's foreign to us, if you know what I mean.
What I was going to say,
because it's Eurocentric. It's Eurocentric.
One thing I was just going to say to that, just to add on to Marathon, is the tradition is really seen as a old boys club, white male club. That's what I was going to say. The tradition.
Yeah.
If you look at the prime ministers again, when I spoke about, if you caught this, start of the stream. If you look at the prime ministers, there are a few exceptions. Even the women, they all come from a certain class. They come from certain region of the country. They go to certain go to public schools, Harrow, Oxford,
Eton,
Red Brick,
Eton,
Red Brick economics. You see what I mean? So that's one of my
dynasty.
You know what I mean? Not just the whole. You have to wear these stupid attire, and you have to do. It's more than that for me. It's all about the whole how it encompasses everything.
Exactly. But the thing is, the black community doesn't realize it, because I've discussed this with my friends, and I'm the only actually -1. I am the only person that would say, okay, I have the money, I'm sending my children to private school. But they're all like, no, they'll end up being like this, they'll end up being like that.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Maybe, especially if you do it in your indigenous countries, maybe if you're African or Caribbean, that'd be even better, because their kids will marry black, wealthy or well-to-do kids. That will be even better. But there's international students in private British schools, so
and it surrounds you with the correct mindset as well. Compared to, you're not going to, especially as a black person, now you're not going to be exposed to that roadman lifestyle. You're going to. And okay, even let's switch over even to the black woman. You're not going to see this baby mama mentality, blah blah blah. You won't be exposed to that. You'll expect better for yourself.
Exactly.
I think we just need black.
Do you think
in this country?
Sorry, sorry, CMA, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just think we need black elitism in this country. I think because I was watching this weird documentary. It's called what was it? It was this guy called Lawrence Otis. He's American, and it was about the black upper class over there. And America, since it was segregated, it didn't mean like every black person was poor and every white person was rich. The HBCU was quite exclusive, because they had that colorism, and they also had they had like the black upper class who created those HBCUs, and they still marry and mate and intermingle with each other. You can watch on YouTube the black elite or the black upper class, and I think in Britain we need that. We need something similar to that. We need it sounds elitist, but we need some caste sort of system to create that generational wealth with our community.
You know what?
Even internationally as well.
You and this guy named Vincent would be perfect. He thinks on the same wavelength as you about having like an elitist, a black type of bourgeoisie. And I don't disagree.
No, I don't disagree.
I think we need to actually separate black people from niggers. That's it.
But the big problem. The big problem is especially with generational wealth. We don't have black families, so we're not going to have generational wealth. And there is that that elitist circle in the UK, but it's just too small. Do you know what I mean? But it's there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's there.
And the thing is, we do need to separate ourselves from that. 20.
You know what, though?
Go, KB.
Okay, sorry, no, thank you. I was going to say, do you know what, though? To that notion that just came by, I don't think that's half a bad idea, you know. And you know what? Would we stream? I think it was your last stream, Why It Matters, when we was talking about there's black people in certain places and moving out to areas like Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Maybe if these smaller towns and cities where black people are starting to go to, and you know, slowly but surely, just more and more black people are having their own properties, and younger people are starting to think that way. It's not in big droves, but it's happening. So if we can get sort of pockets together in our own sort of communities, I see people saying in their chat as well, you know, and in small little towns, because places like Milton Keynes, not just there, but they don't seem to mind there being a surplus of us moving there, for example. You know, you know, so if we can get occupy things like that, we can work from that. So like you say, caste systems, certain people they just can't come with us. Like, we're just gonna have to start doing it. Someone in the chat said we got to look inwards. We're gonna have to just start doing that for this to work in the first place.
And you know, sorry. So and the thing is, again, it's like it's not, well, like I say, it's a small percentage really that really bring the image of black people down. The thing with us black men who are productive and trying to move forward, yeah, we need to stop we don't promote it, but we need to separate ourselves from them guys. Let them do what they want to do, and like I said, we'll do what we need to do, because like I'm going to talk about this a lot more next week with Why It Matters, but the percentage of people who are really doing all this bullshit, it's a small percentage of, you know, no good black youths. You know what I mean? It's not a big percentage, but it makes it all look bad in a certain way. So we need to separate, and especially like most of us live in big yes, and like London and Birmingham, places like that. So we see it a lot more. Do you know what I mean? We see it a lot more. So we think, damn, it's like worse than it is. But yeah, separation is needed, and like I said,
need to
and go where you need to go.
Definitely. I think we just need to start. I think as Black British people, we just need to start to have like at least black middle class, like in the UK. And I think I know white communities, they have like newverish, communities like in Essex or.
But the thing is, we do have that here. We do have that. We do have it.
But we don't have the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Area. Wait, do we have
we don't have an area, but we do, but mainly because we're so clustered in cities, we all get melded together into one group.
Yes.
But then the problem that I see with this is that with this entire from what I've realized, whenever we can't get too much, then the cancer enters and then it slowly spreads and then it gets ruined. We basically just need to treat it like a cancer. There's certain people that cannot be saved. There's certain people.
Absolutely.
There's certain people, they just need to go. They just need to go.
Yeah.
We're trying to treat this cancer. It's not going away. You know what happens? They will take out the organ, use chemotherapy, destroy the cells. That's what we need to do. Just remove it. Forget about them. I'm sorry, these people are stabbing themselves on the streets. I'm done. You go kill yourselves.
And the thing is, do you know what? Sorry. And one thing about that as well, it's like, you see, with white people, like when I go out, I see most homeless people. I see the white people, white guys, begging. Or white women. I see white people on the street begging. Do you think white people care about them?
No,
white people don't see them. White people don't see them. And it's their country. They walk past.
Exactly.
I see more black people giving to them white people. You see, they cut off. If they're living that kind of life, they just cut them off.
True.
And we need to do that as well.
Exactly. It's like with the people up north where like they're associated with smoke binge drinking, wasting all their money on cigarettes, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They just disassociate. They just disassociate. They said that's not us.
Yeah.
We need to stop. We just need to stop because
we've
tried helping them for years. It doesn't help.
I think
we need to go.
Can I just say something just really quickly about the north? Because I think you guys are mostly in London and stuff, and I'm not.
London.
What do you think the North is that? Is that the stereotype of the North? Just
white drunk Northerners, Jeremy Cole. No offense.
Yeah.
No offense.
No money.
Lord of mercy. There are loads of black people in some of these North. In the Midlands, not North, but maybe you guys is the North. But all right, okay. Continue.
Yeah.
You know what? And it's funny, because I was doing on the podcast I was doing, because in America they're talking about all these women wearing bonnets.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I was trying to compare it to the UK, and I don't know if you guys have been to Liverpool.
Yeah, they wear stuff like that, don't they?
No, but the thing is, they wear like pajamas to go shopping.
Exactly, and like fake tan.
Yeah, bro.
Like,
Pajamas and Uggs, bro.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. But then, what I was saying is,
I've seen black women do that where I'm at least. So I don't know. I don't know you guys.
Oh my!
But the thing is,
it's just working class culture or underclass culture.
No, but the thing is, what I'm saying is that they do it, but then the rest of the white culture don't follow them and do it because it's kind of a lower class thing to do.
They're very exclusive. They just judge them. Like I think I watched a documentary.
Yeah, they do.
About wags, and then there were people like wearing like pajamas. They were having like fake spray tan.
It's mad. It's mad. But like
what wags and stuff, and it was just.
No, but the thing is, what happened with white people is that they all go and criticize it and then just disassociate with it and say, okay, do what you want to do and just don't ever come back to us, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think now with this new movement that we're now seeing of where certain black people are waking up to the entire thing and trying to just move away, we need to stop helping. They can't be saved. Certain people are stuck in their own ways. In the same way that you see even on these other channels where they say, oh, black women aren't, they leave those ones alone. Go for the good, leave them, don't try and save them. They're unsavable.
You know what? I was listening to
and it could be part of the family as well, just separate.
You know what? I was listening to a stream, I think the other day, White Matters, and you were talking about like Marilyn Manson and that music.
Oh right, yeah.
And how like white people just disassociate themselves with. You see what I mean? Like I said, I think sometimes they could. Sorry, go on.
The problem with this, and I don't know if he's going to say this, the problem is just that we actually uphold that, like drill music. We uphold that as a standard of blackness.
No, but it could be. That's why, because that person is black. Oh, we got to support it. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm thinking, just because that person is black and I'm black, we don't have to support it. And I think some people seem to think, we're all black.
I think that's that. It's weird. I think that's that minority thinking. Like, I think we should just think if it's black, are they represent the best of a culture, the mediocre of a culture, or the worst? And if it's the worst, do not associate. It's mediocre. Depends how you feel. If it's the best, celebrate. I think black excellence needs to happen.
When you think about it, even with like the Asian community, they're very, very conservative in the way they conduct themselves, and in which when they wouldn't allow drill to even occur, because if drill would occur, they would just ostracize the individual immediately. There wouldn't be a case of let's go support them because it would be like, no, this is stupid.
Exactly, and that's the difference, and especially I don't want to even make it between black men and black women, but with black guys, I don't see productive black guys promoting these gangsters and these thugs, but I see educated, intelligent black women promoting Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion.
And it's just not a good look. It's not a good look.
You shouldn't be doing that, man.
I think the reason why they do it, I think the reason, I think every, even any ethnic minority, we all come from like working class culture. Like we all come from that. So I think by these educated women, they probably did well in the education system, but they do come from that poverty background.
But we do as well, but we're not promoting the gangsters. That's what I'm trying to say. We do, but we're not promoting. I don't see anyone in these spaces saying we should be like them thugs and big up the shut of them. You know what I mean? I don't see us really doing that. We know they're there, but we're like, boy, you know what I mean? We don't push it. Okay, you do your thing,
and then these are the faces of this is the face of our race, and then you see them on the news getting shot and getting stabbed. It's like, oh, for goodness sake. These are meant to be our elite people, and they're getting shot on the streets and doing the very thing that the bottom of our people are doing. So of course,
having beef Stormzy versus what's his name, Wiley, right? Yeah, they was having like an argument over I don't know if it's some. I know it's a joke, yeah, but it was just like I thought it was real, like stuff. It's just not wasn't needed, like stuff like that.
But the
I know
problem,
that's
the
And
problem
I
is
think
on that. One sec, Marathon. The problem is on that, all this, because I'm just highlighting this comment here about elite mindset. Look at rich, dumb rappers. Now, the problem is people, especially black folk, don't know the difference between money and class.
true. That is so true.
Rappers have a lot of money, but they have no
But they
class.
have no class. They have no generational wealth. They're just neither rich. They're just rich people that have money. And they're probably going to lose their wealth. Like, what's his name? That rapper from the US. I can't remember his name.
Loads of 50 Cent losing all his weight. Well, but the thing is, though, the problem is people don't understand what the mentality of an upper class person is. It's not about because a rapper will have more money potentially, a football player will have more money, but that doesn't buy you the mentality, the elite mindset. The way
it's that get the bag mentality, that short-term mindset. They just want everything now. I want to flex this. Even look to our even countless that on benefits, the poorest of the poor. They're buying Gucci bags, buying expensive tracksuits, buying Canada Goose jackets for $2,000, and it's like, this is not how you generate wealth. This is not how you even keep wealth.
That's liability.
You live below your means. Exactly. You live below your means, save, invest. But that just doesn't occur. And then you even see this just in general, where if you try and do that, you'll be considered lower value on like the pecking order within black people just for not flexing that you have money. You have to. It's a case of you can't have numbers in your bank account and say this is how much I have, or have a nice-ish house, but not a too expensive car, and say this is what I have. No, that can never run. You have to literally show that bank balance in a physical item.
Well, do you know what? Saying that, and then because you guys are right, but then for us to stop like the next generation, which they're already coming up and seeing these sort of things you guys are saying, and to even be thinking about having black people in politics and in possible future positions, then I suppose we've got to start teaching things like economics, credit, just about money in general on a ground level. Otherwise, let alone politics and policies, because otherwise it's never going to happen. Because you lot are right. And I'm thinking, do you know what? Because we don't have a basic grasp of money. True. We just don't have a basic grasp of. We know how to spend it, but we're just now coming round to very well, exactly. But we just barely know how to invest it. But you know make it work for us and use it in the right things. We don't get taught. Well, I shouldn't say we don't get taught. We know it's there. The information's there. We don't practice
I think it's just bullshit now. Like, no offense, KB, but I just think it's like when people just say, like, oh, I don't know how to invest, I don't know how to learn money. We got the internet. The internet is there. You can search anything you want.
It's a working class mentality, though, because you know what? With white people.
But it's more than that, though. It's more than that. The issue is a lot of these kids, like I said, they're being
dragged. Got to do with black culture as well.
But the thing is, we don't have families. You know what I mean? And the thing is, we have single mums who are working, going up in society in that sense. Kids are going to breakfast club, after school club, TV, and that they're being dragged up. Do you see what I mean? So they're not being taught that at all. They have to learn by themselves. And if we don't have that family structure, it's potluck with them kids. That's where it all comes to. Because these women can't bring up these kids by themselves in reality. But the way this system is set up, you can survive with all the support and benefits, and your kid can just be dragged up until he goes in the street. Do you see what I mean? So that's the big issue where it's hard to sort out that issue, because you can't do it by yourself, and I think that's going into a deep another subject. But
true. I think we need a separation. I think we need to start first middle class and then
start anew. Leave the single mothers alone. Leave the road alone. Leave the baby daddies alone.
You know what?
They're on their own. I'm really done with them. I can't tolerate them. They can't be saved.
You know what? 1 minute. Do you know what? You see the single mothers though, yeah? Even you not saying the single mothers. If there was this open invite to be like, look, okay, let's just say Birmingham. Okay, we're all the ones of a certain class. We're going to start again. We're all going to move to Brum. Who wants to come? Yeah. Even with some of those single mums, you will see a certain percentage of them come along because sometimes it's just situations. But
Yeah,
you'll find even amongst some of them, you'll find a few girls that are like, "Do you know what? I'm going." But then, obviously, we'll find a lot of, "No, I'm staying in the hood." We'll be able to see who's who. So you guys are correct. If we get this open invite, even with a single mother thing, you'll see, some of them,
yeah.
it was just
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say.
I think the single mother thing. Sorry to interrupt, Matthew. I was just gonna say the single mother thing. I just think, like, oh no, it's just like there's just. I think I think it's IQ. Like, I'm not to be like this, like fancy stuff, but I think it's IQ. I think like when I mean single mothers, we all mean like women that are teenager or early adults that get pregnant out of wedlock, and the husband is not. They don't divorce the husband, or what's it called? The husband dies. We mean those type of women. We don't mean divorced women or widowed women. We mean the
talking
people that
about
are.
baby mothers, not just single mom, like baby mothers.
Yeah, baby. I think we should say baby mom, not single mother. Like because
I don't know. But the scary thing is because I hear this about they're kind of they're not really that intelligent and they're young. They didn't know what they were doing, and they're having babies. Imagine bringing up how is that child going to turn out if I didn't know what I was doing. I was young and how is that child going to turn out? Because I hear this all the time.
Let me just offer this as in answer to that question. Chuka Umunna, again, he came from a single mother background. Barack Obama came from a single mother background. So I will say this: there are occasions where it's not necessarily about the single mother background; it's about the culture within. And a lot of times, if we have a community, we talk about separation, about making the good ones. You're going to get that anyway, to be fair. But it's about the culture that exists within the household. The problem is, again, it's always about the culture of the household, regardless whether it's two parents or one parent. Because I've seen situations. Two parents.
Barack Obama and Chuka Umunna came from middle class backgrounds, actually. Even
exactly. And if you look at Barack Obama's dad, he was
come from middle class backgrounds.
This is what I mean by culture. This is what I mean by the culture, and then the
culture, social culture, isn't it? Yeah.
But why it matters? The thing about it is, if you come from a single mother background and you do good, it's that's amazing. But again, it's like,
is it really?
Yes, it is.
No,
yes,
it really is. The really
yes,
is. The stats are really against you. The chances of you randomly dying are even like.
My man, so it's true.
We have to do a stream on this. We have to talk about this.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know what? And
you surprised me. I'm surprised you got that reaction.
Well, that's because I come from a single parent household, and I know I ain't these things. So you know what I mean.
You know what? No, I've got the stats on that as well. About the more likely to be in prison, get in trouble with the law. So I've got all the stats on that as well.
To die from just neglect.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
it's crazy. Like everything bad just goes up just dramatically.
So the thing is, if you're elevating yourself like being bought from a single mother, that's amazing. So it's good that I know a lot of guys do it as well. It's just amazing, but you have more of a chance if you're in a two-parent family. That's all. But if you like, a lot of guys do really good from single mothers. But they deserve all the respect. I'm telling you straight.
No, fair enough. I want to just sort of pivot back to sort of being a black prime minister, and I wanted to ask this to the panel because. Do you know when Barack Obama went into the White House, what he had to do was kind of switch his style. So even though he came from like a middle class background, what he had to do is, if you realize that he acted a bit more, I hate using this expression, but more black. Again, we'll talk about he had Jay-Z at the inauguration. He sort of switched his style. He appealed to the masses, but he still had that sort of intellectual, but he had to put a black spin on it. My question is this: we talk about separation, we talk about middle class, upper class. Do you think we still have to have that black swagger attached to it for it to work?
Unfortunately, yes. But I think, the whole Trevor Phillips and people like him, I think in Britain, we might, if we do this right, like create a black middle class, I don't think we necessarily have to as well. Because maybe, let's say the white dominant middle class and wealthy people, they might just accept, like someone that is similar to them in social cultural class. But I do think with the black, working class types, you do have to, adapt, into the sort of wording you know, doing like spins, you know, doing with rappers or with accents and stuff. So yeah, I do think you have to, but I think if we do create this middle class group and we do this like generationally, like let's say like in 3, 4, 5 generations, I don't think it'd be
Start breaking
necessarily.
away from it. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just shedding. We can just use that as a stepping point, just to
That has to be a
actually
stepping point.
actually build it in the first place.
Yeah,
Sacrifices will have to be made.
Do you know what?
yeah,
I have an answer, but it might be a bit of an interesting one. Do you know what? I think first of all, it depends on how old the person is, right? And also, I think it might be interesting if that person has a Caribbean background in particular. Why I
true,
say that
true.
is because there's that
Mm.
particular affliction between England and the Caribbean, or Britain and the Caribbean.
Commonwealth.
Well, exactly. And you know, if anything, if I know it's not the case, but if you was to ask a sort of modern way white person, anyone from like the 1900s going up in the last couple of centuries, they're gonna say, if you sort of generally ask them who are the sort of first black people that you remember coming here, they're gonna say Caribbeans. So I think that could possibly play a part in it as well, if they wanted to not have to play up the black part so much. I think people won't be too taken aback by it. But again, I think the person might have to be a bit older. I'm not, you know, I don't know. There's something I was just thinking of that as a possibility, but yeah.
No, it's fair. I mean, the average age of like MPs are like 55, so they all have to be a good age. I'm telling you that. So yeah, but interesting, because for me personally, I'm like, there has to be a little spin. There has to be something which just resonates with their blackness, which resonates with. It won't just be black people it resonates with. Fun enough, it'll be a lot of other groups. I think working class people who resonate with that. I think even white people look at a black person and think he's white. But he's a black. He's white in blackface. Because I don't know if anyone knows this, but during the 2011 riots, David Starkey, he made a comment about David Lammy, and he said this, and he's a historian. He said, if he was to switch off the TV but listen to David Lammy, you would think this brother is white. Now, this was a white guy saying this. He was a
racist, isn't it? Yeah.
No. To be fair, I'm going to be completely down to earth here. That is a thing that if you like, with a lot of especially black conservatives, their talking points are just so, they don't, as I think was discussed last week, their talking points are just so left and out of touch. You think they're white.
Well, this is it. Kemi Badenoch, she got ripped by a lot of black people for her positions, and I don't know what it is, but they just have that. Especially conservatives, they have that. They seem to cape for white people. I talked about this in my stream. All their viewpoints seem to just cape for white people. It's like they can't admit there is racism happening. We've had a 14-year-old kid who got stabbed to death due to a racist attack. It's like I get what you said. This is what I mean. It's almost as if you turn off the screen and you're hearing a white person in blackface. It's just crazy. So go ahead,
yeah. I was gonna say, do you guys know Calvin Robinson? He's from Good Morning.
Oh yeah, mixed race
guy. Yeah, like I do agree with some certain stuff. I'll say I'm like on the left, but like economically, but I would say I do agree with certain stuff, but I feel like he just loves to pander to white people. I don't know how he just loves saying racism doesn't exist, it's a myth, or but he does talk. He loves to add the biggest lies is one is mixed with truth, and he just loves to mix truth with lies, and it's just so it's kind of annoying, Like I think,
every time he's wheeled out, it's always to oppose an issue about black. I've in my stream about black conservatives. I said
I watched it.
Black conservatives seem to be always wheeled out when it comes to these things. It's like you're looking like you're pandering to them, you're caping. And it's like, come on, man. Even me as more of a conservative, I don't have all these viewpoints because I'm living reality. I'm like, I do understand that it may not, racism is not what it was, but let's not just be stupid about it. You know what I mean? Right. So I just want to bring up this comment, Skittles man. Here's what I'm going to say about this, because people confuse when I say speaking black as to acting ghetto. And this is, I want to do a stream on this, and I would love to have some of your viewpoints on what does a middle class, upper class for black people look like, because there's a flow about black people which isn't related to acting like a nigger. And what I want to really understand is, what does that look like? What does that sound like? What does that is? Because at the end of the day, with this rap music, drill music, there's also jazz. There's also soul. There's also funk. They are all black dominated music but there's a different vibe, a different flow, and a different type of people listen to those type of music. people do listen to some jazz, but let's be honest, a jazz crowd is different than a R&B crowd. An R&B crowd is different than a hip hop. And you see what I mean? So what I want to know is I say talking black. I'm not talking about, oh, you have to say, them way there and all the stuff, that kind of crap. But there is a way I've seen where black people can talk black, but it's not about acting like a nigga. I just want to make that distinction. What do you think?
To be fair, sorry.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I never understood why, why would someone say, can you speak black, something like that. I speak normally, someone shouldn't be saying that, you should be speaking black or you should be speaking Asian. You can speak. Funnily enough, if somebody speaks, I know what ethnicity
What
that
race
person
you are.
is and all that.
Thank you.
So for instance, in Northern England, let's just say Northern England, for instance, I could tell the difference between a white British person or an Asian person. It's the way they speak. I might get it wrong sometimes, but most of the time I'll probably get it right.
That's it. There's a cadence and a flow to it. I always hear like an Asian guy for some reason.
But it's more, but I think it has a a perceived speaking black and all that. It could be, for instance, somebody that has it could be like a certain patois, element to it or something.
Cultural, like
in particularly in London area, Birmingham, places like that.
Yeah, why it matters. I was just gonna touch on that. Yes and no. I think the no part is the fact that we all live in England, and I think because England, like I said, England is such an integrated society. I think we do assimilate to how generally what white people would sound like, And I think maybe like 3, 4, 5, 6 generations, we would just more sound like the native whites, depending on our class or geographic. But what I would say yes to,
because our geography just is like it's all the same. We're all in urban cities, so we all speak this urban language. So we
it's
all
not
end up
urban because I can tell
sort
like,
of sounding the same. That's the issue.
But I can tell what a white person sounds like in urban settings because there's this thing on BBC One about Emily multicultural London English, which is kind of like London slang, and there was this white guy. And he had the same sort of accent like the London slang, but I knew he was a white person because his intonation, his accent, which is like the pitch, tone, melody, the dialect of the pattern speech, has a white Cockney bass. If you understand what I'm talking about,
that's what I was saying. I get
you would know, like I know we know he's white. Yes, he sounds like he's from London, but I know he's white. And a black person, for example, they have probably have a Caribbean or African heritage. Even if they have different names. I met this lady, her name was Ellen. I thought she was a white person because her name's Ellen. Turns out she was black, and I knew she was from the Caribbean. And I asked, "Oh, you're from the Caribbean, aren't you?" And she was so like shocked by I thought that was like I can hear by your accent, the intonation of the accent. So I do agree why it matters there is, but I think that's more of a cultural thing, and I think it might somewhat dilute in many generations in Britain because we just live in an integrated society, and whilst the US is more segregated, we just live more integratedly and more assimilated to that. Yeah.
But I suppose with that, because again, I always compare ourselves to like Asians because they're another minority group, and maybe because they have a complete different language, maybe that's the reason why. But they still seem to keep a lot of their cultural traits. So what it might be a case of, and again, it might be another stream is still, even though our culture would evolve, we'll still that basis of all right, and that's a black Brit. We still integrate, but that's a black Brit. That's a you know what I mean? If that makes any sense, even though we're still in an assimilated society, don't get me wrong, because there'll always be, and to people in the comments like Vincent, there'll always be people who are black who sound white. There'll always be white people who sound like it just is what it is. But for the most part, people get what we're saying, isn't it? You know what I mean? But
like here in Birmingham in the inner city, like the black, white, Indian, they all talk with a bit of Jamaican patois, you know what I mean? They all do around here.
They're white, but you can still tell a white Birmingham accent.
Yeah,
exactly.
But what I'm saying is they all talk with that kind of slang. Yeah. It's really integrated in that sense. Everyone does that. Everyone has that. Could we got a large Caribbean community here? Everyone's like Wagwan, and everybody does it. Wherever you go, you know what I mean?
That's all because of the popular culture. So, for example, a lot of people use popular culture in general. So once it becomes popular, other groups will latch onto it. There's certain things that I would say which is part of just a popular culture.
No. I think it's because we got generations and generations that have mixed together here in the inner city. Because poor people are poor people. See what I mean? And like, so you're like where I live, it's like there's black, Indian, white. The kids all play together, so you get the and for some reason, like I said, black people's culture is very dominant, isn't it?
True. Yeah, especially Caribbean culture. Like you guys,
yeah, it takes over.
African, yeah, but Caribbean culture is always dominant. Because I lived around, I live in London, and I live more in a black Caribbean area. It's dominant. I think it's you're like with the antithesis of whiteness, and we're being seen as like the bottom. So people think it's edgy and cool to act like that, even if they're like from like white middle class backgrounds called Oliver, want to act like a roadman or whatever.
It's like nature that a lot of Caribbean have. But yeah, again, I think you're right. I think part of rebellion, especially for younger people, it just fits well. But absolutely. And speaking of which, I want to ask something, because when it comes to a lot of MPs, I'm seeing a lot more of them are African as opposed to Caribbean. Now, do you think it'll be an African prime minister, black prime minister, more than a Caribbean prime minister?
It'll be a Caribbean mixed race, but I think if it's going to be a black male, it will probably be African, because I'm going to cite the stats that you brought up in earlier videos. It's not looking good for our Jamaican brothers. It's not looking good at all.
Yeah, Caribbean.
No, there's three times as many Africans in the UK now than Caribbean, isn't it?
Yeah.
Three times as many.
If the mixed population were all black, it wouldn't be like that. But it's African.
Sorry, go on.
Okay, go on. Oh, okay. I said, let alone also you guys also date out the most out of the black demographics. And actually, no, I think all
Caribbean.
Caribbeans, but overall, like, so it most likely if it's Caribbean, they'd have to be mixed. I'm not saying I'm any better in that department, but I'm sorry, Fiona. But
continue.
But yeah, I think it would have to be an African. It would have to be an African man, and they'd come from a more, how should I say, grounded conservative background, more likely compared to the Caribbean. Yeah. So things, I think, in life statistically will have more black African candidates who could potentially become prime minister versus Caribbean fully black candidates.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Africans seem to have, at least from a more in that middle class background.
Yeah,
it's true. I'm just like, I see it more and more often nowadays, because even Kemi Badenoch and I forgot the Quirting who's in there. They're all of really background. Femi, who's on the left, he's like if you're on Twitter, you know who Femi is. I forgot what his surname is.
Yeah, Femi.
Very, very, very middle class. A lot of Africans have honed that. But I will say this, forgive me for this, if anyone Africans on the panel, obviously KB and stuff, they do have that. I'm sorry, they do have that. They seem like so much white identifying than black identifying. That's the only thing I'm going to say about it. It seems.
Call him Mancoons, yeah, I hear it. I hear it, bro.
I take severe offense to that.
But no,
but you're right, though. You're right. You are right.
But you're 100% right. I do agree with that. I do agree with that.
Do you know the only thing that makes me, because I think it's very more likely as well. You know, the only thing that makes me think, that's going to be interesting, is things like, because you know, things like names and bloodlines, it's obviously very important within, you know, Britain itself. I'd be very interested if it is an African candidate or a prime minister, because even us Black British, most of us still have our original sort of surnames. Caribbeans more have European sounding names, so it'll be quite interesting. I know you've got a Sadiq Khan and all these other type of people, but we've just sort of established that Asians have got to this point where they've got to keep their culture somehow, as well as being able to assimilate. And it seems, I don't know, the impression I get a lot of the time, and we kind of been touching on it, is Black people are either meant to be quote unquote really black or assimilate. It's like we have no middle ground. I don't know. So that's going to be quite interesting if there is like African candidates and how they sort of, you know, if it's perceived that way as well. I'm going to be interested to see if that is the case.
I
I
would,
don't know.
When an African
Yeah.
candidate can't bring like traditional African values into it, that it would not work. It would plainly
Yeah.
would not work. I wouldn't even back it.
I would, but I mean,
I was going to say,
I
why
think
do you
it is
say
a
that?
fact,
Why
but-
do you say that? That's a good question. Though. Why would you say it? Because
I-
that's part of your heritage. Why would you say that?
colonialism, right? I mean,
there are good parts, but at the same time, like personally, I'm socially more conservative, but
same.
I'm socially more conservative personally. But for what I believe in general, what should run is liberal in a sense.
Okay.
So it would not meld with me. Like personally, I'd be like inside, I'd be like, yep, I'm perfectly fine with it. But would I want it for everyone else for that to run by everyone else by law? No.
Interesting, because for me personally, I would. I mean, I would more lean towards a conservative type of prime minister, because at least from the value system, you think.
Yeah, no, I get
like
you. I
family,
get you.
a lot of Africans, family is very, very, very key, isn't it? So
Yeah,
a lot of
And
these,
it could fix a lot of the issues that we have in the community
and also
surrounding it.
have very good educational is a priority. Education priority. Very
Mhm.
some of them are very elitist. A lot of found, and it could basically raise up the standards. What I'm trying to say, as opposed to what we Caribbeans do is just lower the standards and then say, "Wow, you can't do that." Come on, man.
You guys saying that then? Yeah. If there was an African candidate or prime minister, are you guys saying that you think the general sort of British public and society would be okay with him being presented with an African family as well?
No way.
Because you guys are mentioning
the sun that governs the North would tear that apart.
I know, because what you guys were just describing, when you guys were just talking, I was imagining all that, and all I could think was, that sounds great, but I can imagine that with an African wife. But then I thought, are they gonna go for that? He's gonna have to have a white woman, no? Or
yeah, he would have to have a white woman.
Maybe if she comes from money. Maybe if she comes from money. Maybe if she's
even if she came
maybe
from
like
money, it would not look good, because
and she culturally assimilates.
No,
because there's a lot of Nigerians sending the kids to like Eton.
No, but the thing is, a lot
Chinese and Indians, so they're creating like global rich.
The thing is, right, I think you're looking at it too much from a West African perspective, where that the UK is more of the dominant place to go. But I'm not from West Africa, so I see like the majority. I get to see like what it is for the majority of Africa, and like most of the cases, if they come from a wealthy African family, they will come with an American accent.
Okay, true. Or Britain.
So
if you watch I was watching this documentary, Super Rich. There's like Lagos, there's Nigerians that always send their kids to like British schools, their own places in Chelsea, and they kind of just come for the education, but go back to Nigeria and help themselves. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't see like a
they
proper
don't integrate like in British society. They don't like integrate with the white rich people. They just get education, make money, get land, get property in London, and then go back. And
that was originally the case for almost 100 years, where the royalty of Africa would go to Europe and then get an education, then immediately go back. And then it only started changing in the 90s and late 80s, where people actually began like to actually start staying in the UK.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why we don't really have an established base, like solid
sorry, guys.
base.
Hi. In regards to the topic and all that, it's been nice speaking, in regards to those topics and all that. But I have to go now. Take care.
Yeah,
guys.
thanks for stopping by, Ozzy. And yeah, make sure you come back anytime, and obviously subscribe if you haven't. Everyone in the chat, thank you. Make sure you like the stream, subscribe if you're new, and all that good stuff. So no, thanks, Ozzy.
Yeah, the topic was very interesting. To be fair, have a jolly good evening, guys.
All right, you too.
You too.
All right.
take care.
Bye, Ozzy. Nice meeting you. Oh.
And I'm gonna say something.
I was gonna ask where are you from, like your background. I was gonna ask where in Africa are you from?
Me? Southeast. I wasn't born in Africa. I was born here.
No, but I mean your parents. No, but I mean your
Oh,
parents and grandparents.
Tanzania.
Ah, cool. My dad is Eritrean. I'm quite a mix of both West and East Africa. You know. So,
Oh, there are quite a few East Africans throughout like London, especially like in Woolwich, where I think there's an entire area that's just Ethiopian and Eritrean.
yeah.
I think it's got a nickname like Somaliland or something like that.
Not Somalian, but Eritrean got facts. Yeah.
So let me ask this then. So we talked kind of a bit about almost the foundation of what it takes to be a prime minister in terms of background, class, obviously what we need to do. But my thing is this: I want to kind of move forward in terms of we have a black prime minister. However it happens, we've had it. We've got a prime minister in place. Now, what are your expectations for this guy or this woman? Do you have any expectations? Because one thing I've always realized, and this is what kills us a little bit, because I think we don't hold our leaders to account, forget prime minister, but we don't hold our leaders to account. And we've seen it with MPs, they've been there for God knows how long doing nothing. And it's just like, because they're black, we're black, it's cool. We just let it lie. Where if it was a white person doing this, we would never, ever give them the time or day or the kind of passes that we do. So my question is this. We talk about holding ourselves to account, accountability. What will you do with the first black prime minister? Will you stay on his neck or her neck?
Oh, definitely. I'll do the exact same that I do with the standard politicians. I don't really show favoritism in that kind of sense that they have to operate.
Have a soft spot a little bit. Not like that. Then no soft spot.
But you know what? I would like I wouldn't expect anything, but I would expect the black community to try and get as much from him as possible in terms of make him feel obligated to help us. But I wouldn't expect it. Especially the first black prime minister.
Yeah, no, there's a limit to what you can do. In all honesty,
yeah.
If you go too radical, we're gonna go 200 years without seeing another one.
And the thing is, he can do it, but then I would like Barack Obama didn't manage to get much done for the black community. I think for the first black prime minister, we should put pressure on his neck. But I mean, we know better now. But personally,
because the politicians at the end of the day, they're not, politicians don't change systems, people change systems. I mean, but it's a nice symbolic, for us black Brits and even the world to see a black person. But what's the cost they have to let go, marry a white rich female, go to his posh school, why can't I just marry a black person and then come from a poor background?
But you know what? But even if I really don't see a problem if he's married someone outside his race, because
same here. Because realistically, how feasible? I'm going to be completely brutally honest here. How feasible is it? Such as when we had the discussion with Vincent, where he said he wanted essentially a black Kate Middleton. I applauded him for it.
Yeah,
but how feasible is that?
Exactly.
That is not feasible. I am going to tell you that is not.
No. You keep going on with that black Middleton. We need that. I'm sorry. One thing I will say, and it sounds ridiculous. I want a black family. No. It has to be a black man or a black woman. It has to be a black family. It has to. None of that nonsense. So, Vincent, you go get your black Kate Middleton. You know what I mean? You go get how
the 1%. The Holy Grail.
Yes, all 5 of them.
Look for the Holy Grail, Vincent. The gold at the end of the rainbow.
Please tell me which shop.
Exactly.
Recreate them. I will go there immediately.
I will as well.
That is armies, man. I said armies. Tanks, armies.
We'll build him a Kate Middleton. We'll build him.
Yeah.
We'll build him.
Yeah, man.
Show me
that factory, man. Show me where that factory is.
We'll build it.
Please. I want to know.
We all want that, man.
Oh, bro.
I'm first in line, me. I'm at the front of the queue.
Please,
I'll fight you there, man.
As much as I criticize the guys who complain on the internet, they do have a point here. You are not finding that. As much as you want to believe it exists, It is so
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah.
I mean, it is rare, but like like I said
Because even
again,
for other demographics, it's rare. But then the
Straight.
problem is,
Straight.
for us
Rare
now,
upper up.
3%. Now the culture's working against us. The economy's working against
Right.
us. Everything
Right.
is. It's just
Right.
not feasible.
Right. But like I say, there's hope in it. That 0.1. Nah, it's all good.
No,
You never know. You never know.
You have to train that for as soon as it's born. Just but
Boom.
okay, you go to this school, you'll be reading this book, then maybe, like a factory designed one.
Here's what I'm going to say. This is why we need a situation. Here's the thing. I don't think there's a black Prince William really out there, and obviously not talk about born into royal family. I'm talking about that type of guy. Who?
No, in Ethiopia there is. Oh, what's his name?
I mean like in the UK. I mean like, do you know what the problem is that we don't have again that high economic class to have black men and black women who will couple together. Now, Vincent in the chat will talk about he has seen with his connections, but in Nigeria. But I'm talking about in the UK now. If you're looking for a UK born,
no, the thing is, hold on. Sorry. Hold on. Why it matters? The thing with Kate Middleton, we're not talking about her class.
No, you're talking about
you understand me? So
exactly.
we're not talking about her class. We're talking about how she looks and how she carried herself. We're not talking about
No. I know
about her being. Do you understand me?
No. I get it.
Okay.
I agree with you. I disagree. Well, I disagree with two things that they don't exist because but yes, I know what you're saying. It's about a whole image, her being feminine, fit. She's inside.
Elegant.
I get it.
Yeah. But we're not. Go on.
Her background. If you look at her background, she is again from a very affluent background. See what I mean? So all these people come from certain backgrounds, which has a standard.
But that don't matter. That don't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter really about the background.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're not looking at. Well, most guys are not looking at that in that sense. You know what I mean? Just.
I think me invincible.
But it's like women look for certain things in men in that sense. I mean,
Kate Middleton is not a commoner. She's not your average commoner. She is upper middle class. Vincent's right. She's not a commoner. She's not. She's a peasant, but she is not. I know that.
But the thing is, she could be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I was trying to say. It's not like.
Yeah, what you're trying to get at is that statistically, you're more likely to see that in other demographics. See, like a person that carries themselves like Kate Middleton in different classes in comparison to ours, and that's because of a multitude of factors.
And the thing is, if we're talking about the status and like where she come from in that sense, you could say but like I say, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about. Like I said, how she carries herself, how she looks, and that's what I mean. And I thought that's what Vincent meant. I didn't know he was talking about someone on that economic class.
Well, a bit of both. He does want the look. He wants that whole.
What Kate Middleton black?
He wants.
Hold on.
His equivalent. He wants his equivalent of a woman. That's what he wants.
But then Vincent has to be at least up to Prince William's level. Then, do you know what I mean?
Not like a prince, but like at least a.
No. He got to be a prince because he has to be above Kate Middleton. You can't be below her.
Yeah.
But you can be
what I mean?
You could be new money. You could be
no, not even a millionaire. You got to be on that status.
Billionaire?
No, because if you're royal, you have to be a royal. That's not about money. So
True.
It's unrealistic.
It's about bloodline.
Yeah, it's about bloodline. So that's what I'm trying to say. Looking at it like that,
it has connections.
There is royalty
actually, he does actually. Yeah, big up Vincent. He does. Yeah.
That kind of person. He's going to become like a six-figure. No, trust me. I know what you're saying.
But the thing is why it mattered. Like I said, young brothers like Vincent, brilliant brothers. They're very rare, you know what I mean? Very, very rare. And they're meant to be rare. They're not meant to be common.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't look at that as a standard. Vincent's a different animal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From what I know
I'm
of him.
done his animal group, man. I'm moving up in that sense.
Hold on. I mean, this is the live show I want to do some time about this type of stuff because I think, again, Marathon Man, I know what you're saying. We need to aim because our average is lower than other people's average. We need to aim for a higher average.
That's where
So-
me and you disagree. I disagree with that, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
No,
next
to be
week.
fair, no, I
I
agree. We
disagree.
should aim for
I
a
agree
higher
with you,
average.
White Matters.
like,
No,
Vincent,
no.
I agree with you.
The thing is, our average is not lower than everyone else.
I will definitely talk about that
It's
next.
no, it definitely is.
Agree
It
to
Listen,
disagree,
listen.
man.
I'm going
Agree
to show you the
disagree.
stats. I'll show you the stats, and we'll see. Okay, we'll see next week
Okay.
because it's not. And I keep hearing this. Oh, we're lower than every other ethnic group, and I'm thinking, no, we're not. But like I said,
We'll talk about that. We'll talk
yeah,
about
we'll talk about it because
because
we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
we'll talk about single mothers and all stuff. That's the element of how we're behind other groups. If
Yeah,
you talk about
exactly.
all this kind of stuff about single parents out, men killing each other, shooting, stabbing each other, drill music, that's all the culture. That's all part of why I'm saying. But anyway, that's
That's a really small percentage, though. So it doesn't change the fact that we're not behind. We're not lower than every group.
No,
That's
the
a very-
stats do show we are
No, they
behind.
don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't.
next week,
I've got
man.
that. Listen,
Okay,
next week we'll see. Or check my channel. I've got a video, and you might think so.
I've got some notes. I've got some notes, and we'll trade. We'll trade notes, man. We'll trade.
We're not behind. But like, I know people always think that because you hear about it all the time. We live in ghettos. You see them guys hanging around, so you think, oh yeah, black people are. But like I say, we'll discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, absolutely. But back to the topic about how.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I love it. Trust me, I love the conversation. And by the way, everyone on the panel, I appreciate everyone for turning in. It's been a great turnout. Everyone in the chat and everyone watching back, I do appreciate you all. I love you all. No homo, but I do appreciate all you turning out. So honestly, God, it's been good. It's been delightful. Is Marathon Man dropped off? Yes. Myth twist. How's it going, man? Or Mr. Twist, I should call you now. You're muted. Yeah,
Bro, you're muted again.
just come on here just to sit and chat.
He may be just fixing up his mic. I don't
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. But going back to this whole ideology, because it seems like we're saying it with integrated society, the old way is acceptable is with a certain type of black person, a certain type of how they look, how they are, have to have a certain type of family. It can't be a black family, it can't be this. So I'm thinking to myself, is it even going to be a black prime minister? And that's the thing that's the thing which I think if there is someone who goes in there, I'm like, oh, we're probably we're going to see him as just a white person in blackface, and we're going to make all these kind of excuses about, oh, he can't get this done, he can't get that done. But yeah, if it was a white person, we'll be like, we'll lose our goddamn mind. And that's what I think we're going to lose the ball on because we don't actually want to because we see him as the first one. I think we're going to do like over in the States where for all 2 terms he was in there, he didn't do anything for black folk pretty much down there. And then it was too late. And then it's like, well, you got to wait another how many years for it to happen again? God knows. It's like, once we're in power right now, seize the moment. That's what I mean. Seize the moment.
But the problem is you can't push too far because at the same time it is a white institution. The entire country is a white institution, and if we do make a whole rah pushing for everything, people are going to be yelling, "Well, 3%. Look what he's doing," and we won't get another one in for 200 years.
No, I forget that. Listen, over the last year, I mean, I know we've not been empowered to do it, but I'm like, screw that noise. I'm not saying you have to tear the whole thing down. I think this is another thing as well about what we expect. I'm not saying tear the whole thing down. I'll position it this way. There's knife crime in the capital is going crazy. It's affecting black people. You sort that out, it affects the knife crime. It affects the standing of the community. It affects this. You see what I mean?
Exactly what I was going to say next. That's the first thing to address.
The way you position it, like in other big cities with black people, there's a lot of crime. The way you position it, it has to be done in the right way where it is for black people, but it's also for everyone else. It's all
because it would fix up our images. I get you there. It would fix up our image in the process.
So I don't buy this nonsense about this kind of stuff. I'm like this. No, I think we look at it probably too differently. Maybe I have a different viewpoint, but I'm like, we switch it up to make it beneficial for us as well as the wider community. That's what I'm getting down.
Yeah, no, why did I say killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Hitting 2 birds with 1 stone.
No, you're right. The expression is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. No, you're right.
Oh, am I? Oh, okay.
That's the expression.
Oh.
But no, absolutely. And this is it. So I think sometimes I'm like, I really don't want to miss an opportunity where we have somebody who is supposed to, let's be honest, represent not just the whole UK, but us as well. And I'm like this, I'll give them all the support. But I'm like, yo, just this is for the community as well. You come from maybe you don't, but I don't see it as a case of, we just have to let them live and making sure that we don't rock the boat because at the end of the day they'll never elect another one. I'm like, forget that noise. They might not let one anyway for another 200 years. So what's the guarantee? Myth Twist, sorry, you're off mute now. Do you want to weigh in with your your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was gonna I'll ask a question to what you're just saying there to do with that. Well, my question with that is okay, so if a black person gets in there and all of that, well, what exactly are they supposed to actually do as a black person for black people that isn't gonna be that isn't gonna in some way be getting blocked? Because like Obama's whole thing was, I'm going to be a president for all people, not just black people. That's what his thing was. So in a way, the writing was on the wall that he wasn't going to be doing all of that, despite the fact that people thought it was going to be that. It was kind of bait that isn't what it's going to be. So a lot of the time, like, I think it's like, I think if a black person to get to that position, I don't even know how they'd get that far if they were on some black empowerment type of energy. Like, I don't know how they even get there in the first place, because the type of person who usually is you guys were talking about earlier, the background they come from and all of that, the type of person who usually gets to that position doesn't think in the type of ways I think we kind of want them to think,
Exactly.
I think they tend to not, they tend to not think like that. They tend to kind of be more on the right, I don't want to call it the white side, but they are in the.
No, I get you. That's the question. Here's my strategic mindset, and here's how I'll flex that. Here's what I'll say, because it's not necessarily a pro-black all power thing. Here's what I'll do. First thing, where are we located in the bigger cities? Here's what I'll say. Cheaper housing in the bigger areas. London's example, Birmingham, Manchester, not cheaper housing for the poorer people, so people can get on the property ladder easier for certain people under certain areas or neighborhoods. We'll call it I don't know, the get your first home. That make black people have more wealth. Job markets, job locations will make it sure that so a lot of people who are on the lower social economic ladder, they have more jobs and more affordability. You would also stop cheap import. So what would happen is get cheap Eastern European import. You stop that. You reduce that. You build up a lot more of the homegrown when it comes to nurses, when it comes to doctors, when it comes to manufacturing, plumbing. You would make it so it helps the actual people in Britain. But what would actually do is it will raise the standard of black people, because you'll have access to homes, access to jobs. You'd also sort the crime issue, which is definitely going to affect black people. The way you strategically move is completely different than how you guys thinking. You guys are thinking too on this one straight of, oh, black people this. No. Remove the black. Remove the black. Think about lower economic situations. Also redistribute the wealth when it comes to other areas of the country, which means jobs will move further afield.
Oh, you're running reverse Republican strategy in which you cover the terms which will essentially affect black people, but you cover them in more blanket terms.
It won't
okay.
anyone, but will be a lot of the main participants in some of these movements, Fiona. So that's how I would position it. That's my thoughts.
But yeah, I understand. But like a lot of black people being in inner city areas together, it's an issue because the reason there's so much crime in inner city areas is not because there's a lot of black people together. It's because most of the like hostels or homeless places, people with mental health issues, they're all in these ghetto areas. Do you see what I mean? So that's what increases a lot of the crime within the areas. And I think we don't really realize that, most of the homeless hostels and mental health places are in the ghetto area. They're all, and we're here for a particular reason. They made black people basically live in the ghettos for a particular reason. So we get kind of painted with the whole brush, that negative view. But a lot of the time, there's other reasons as to why there's so much issue in the communities. The HUD being in these ghetto areas, it's not really going to help.
Well, because, I mean, it's not like.
And you know what as well, like I said, and one thing what I think people may not realize is, especially when it comes to crime in the community, it's like in a neighborhood, sometimes it's something like 10 people committing hundreds of crimes. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I work in that field, so I see it. So we believe sometimes, oh, these people are committing crime. Sometimes it's like 2 or 3 people committing hundreds of crimes. And but like I say, we need if you don't work in the field, you wouldn't know that. You would think that loads of people are doing these crimes and everything. It's just a small minority that creating this issue.
I mean,
But
I
yeah.
don't think anyone sensible thinks that most black people are out there stabbing people. But the issue is that most black people ain't sitting there, actually trying to take account of the situation. Rather sit there and, run up behind things like this dysfunctional culture and make excuses for it and keep making excuses for
Exactly.
why this
Yeah.
shit keeps happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that though?
for
What do you mean?
example, a classic example. If you start talking about how music influences things, they'll say no, it doesn't. White people have this. White
It
people have that.
does.
It's all deflection. And then even if you was to say, oh, but what about because I'll put it like this: people say that black people don't ever march or anything like that for if there's black and black crime. It does happen, right? There will be walks, there will be those types of things, gatherings and stuff like that. But the thing is that it's never, and then there will be talks about like black on black crime and knife crime and knife violence, and there's things done and put towards trying to diminish these things, but they're all kind of band-aids. They're not addressing the heart of the issue, which is, as we keep saying, the culture. And the reason they're not going to do that is because it's not politically correct to do it. And at the end of the day, the way a lot of other people are seeing it, non-black people, is it ain't their problem. They don't need to try and rectify the issue. They'll just move. They'll just do white flight. They'll just get out of there. They don't need to try and fix the inner city. They'll just come in and gentrify shit. They ain't got to fix the black culture because it ain't their culture. But we as black people, we're gonna have to deal with it. Even if you're a black person and you're trying to move in other places and do other things, you're gonna get, like you say, that negative those negative connotations because of the culture. You may not be anything like that. You may not subscribe to it, but because they don't see any wide pushback against it, we're all gonna get considered to be, oh, that's what we're all on.
Yeah, but we need to separate ourselves from it. That's what we're saying. We need to separate.
Right. But that has to be done. That has to be done like on a public level, because the thing is what I often see is I see too much excuses, and I've said it before. It'll be people who we might think of as intellectuals, like a Carla or whoever, sitting there making excuses. And my thing is that it can't be. I'm not saying you can't have no understanding, because I get it. The difference between us and other groups of people oftentimes is, as black people, a lot of us have some type of connection to the hood in some way, right? Or so it's like we can kind of understand because we have a family member or something like that, or family so we know they're not bad people. So we don't want to paint it like that's what it is. So you have to, it's hard because you will have to get cut for it. For example, if you've got family members which are kind of part of that dysfunction, it's like you're kind of essentially saying, shit, when we're talking like this, it's like, well, even like them as well. They just, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what makes it harder for us to do it.
But I don't think, I was saying before, I don't think we in general as black people do promote that. And we need to cut that off, because it is a small percentage of black people who partake in the bullshit and this image, and we need to really cut that off. And places and spaces like this, we need more to make brothers know that there are a lot more positive, productive brothers. But the thing is, one minute. Sorry. The thing is to hold them. Yeah. You're right. Hold them accountable. I know what you're saying. Sorry, go on, right, man.
No, I was just going to say this, because I get what you're saying about there's a small percentage. There'll always be a small percentage of bad people. The problem I have is this: when I look at black media, outside of the Voice online, which is like it's not really that mainstream anymore. Here's what you have: like Trend Central, you have the Shade Borough, you have what else? All the BS that we have. They are all like
the millions of grime and drill channels.
Oh my days! You know, the black in the UK is filled, when especially comes to our age group, millennials and younger, where it's just grime, dating topics, sports maybe, and some BS. There are no, as I think, other than like trying to call the black academic, but there isn't like that separation.
Do you know why it matters? Do you know what? That's exactly why we need spaces like this for black men, like in the UK, to discuss this. That's exactly what you're exactly right. There's nothing out there pleading our cause and showing the alternative side. That's why I'm so passionate about spaces like this for black men and boys, and we need to keep pushing it, because I'm surprised that some of the narratives I'm hearing in the black manosphere, I mean, in the UK, I'm thinking it's bullshit. But there's no media in the UK to counter it. In America, it's a bit harder now because they're really fighting back from it, and we got to as well. That's why spaces like this, like your channel and KB, we need them to really grow, because it will definitely make a difference, because we ain't got nothing in the UK, and it's shocking. Some of the things I'm hearing about black people, this and that, I'm thinking, wow, people still really think that. And I thought people knew that a lot of it's propaganda, but they don't. So these spaces, I'm so glad I found these spaces, because
even
Well,
think about it.
needed.
Well,
Yeah,
here's
even think about it.
my question
Oh,
to you
go
about
ahead.
that very quickly. Here's my question to you about that. So you say it's propaganda, right? But here's my thing,
Yes.
because the way it's being said, it sounds like you're thinking only non-black people buy into it. But I would say black people probably buy into that propaganda more than anybody.
They do. That's what I'm trying to say. They do. They like,
Right, but the reason why I'm saying
hold on, 1 second. And it's productive, positive black brothers who are buying into it, saying, yeah, we're this and that. I'm thinking, what?
Yeah,
You know, like a lot of you guys, most of you guys on the channel, on the panel, haven't even got kids. You're not going around doing all this bullshit. But yet you're still saying, oh yeah, we're this and that. I'm thinking, no, you're not. So that's why it's really important that we got a voice here, because we don't have a voice. And it is propaganda, because, and with you youths now, a lot of you youths, you're doing great, really. A lot of you young youths, like Vincent and guys like that, you lot are doing amazing. But then there's nothing there for where you can say, yeah, I'm doing this. It's just like, oh, you know, we're doing shit.
But
And
that's
what
the select
aim to
few.
do.
Like
Yeah.
once
No,
you're
no, no,
down
but
on
no.
the ground, once
No,
you're
no,
down
hold
on the
on,
ground
hold
and
on.
see the general
No,
consensus, it really
no.
isn't looking good.
No. That's the thing. It's only a small percentage who are doing that. Most people are productive black men. But then
okay, but
no one's really done that analysis. And
No, but the difference
how did
between
it?
productive and then what
gonna
we
say,
want to call
yeah,
productive is
Yeah,
completely
exactly.
different,
Hold
because
on. So
there's
what
productive
would
in
you
the
call?
sense of normal working a normal job,
Yes.
and there's
Yes.
productive of I'm going to earn six figures the legitimate way,
Hold on.
not
Hold
through
on.
football, not through
But
music.
but my friend,
Action.
but why would you need to earn six figures? Why do we need
But
to?
it's that no. There's nothing saying that we should earn it. I'm just saying, but have
Mindset.
that in mindset of that.
No,
I want to get there.
No,
Wait,
you shouldn't, because the majority
Huh?
of people are not. The majority of people are not going to get to that level.
It's not the
Like
point.
I said,
But it's
Mindset.
not the point. It's the point of aim for the stars. If you
No,
miss, you're gonna hit
Hold
the
on.
moon.
Man, his point isn't.
you're saying people to fail.
His point isn't. The point isn't, because I've said the same point before that you're saying. It's not about that. Here's the point. So it's about the ceiling, right? So what's basically being argued here is that with other groups of people, their ceiling is higher than ours. So say, for example, even if you've got a black person, they're successful, they might like cap themselves or stop themselves at an earlier point than someone from another group might. Okay, so for example, they might get the six figures and be like, shit, well, I've made it. Because compared to most of these Negroes, I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. That's how they might look at it. But what we're saying is that in other communities, it may not be like that, because in their where they're coming from, they're looking at like six figures is just the starting point.
Just start.
You know what?
I'm not saying everyone needs to make six figures, because like you say, that's not all most people are making. But the point is that if people who achieve that, they a lot of times they might feel like, well, that's it. Like me personally, I don't meet a lot of people, regardless of race, who match my ambitions. So yeah,
listen, Mr. Twist. You know what the thing is? Like I say, a lot of people don't realize, and like I say, to be the top 10% earner in the UK, do you know how much it is for the top 10% earner?
70%. It's 70k a year. It's not really much in the scheme of things. 70K.
Well, it was 50,000. And to be the top 5% was 80,000. So £50,000 you're in the top 10% of men. 80,000 you're top 5%, and 150,000 in the top 1%.
Yep.
But then that's the whole point. If I aim for the top 1 and I end up in the top 5, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, like, most people are not in that.
You're right. Hold on. You're right. Okay. So what you're basically saying is what we're arguing is extreme. But the thing is, look at the other side. Most other communities also don't have our level of dysfunction either. So in order to pull ourselves out of that shit, it might have to be a bit more of an extreme push in the other direction to balance it out.
But not just that though. Marathon, let me ask you this question, because the title of the stream is the first black prime minister. Now, with your viewpoint, you be telling them, well, there's no point because not everyone's gonna be a prime minister, not everyone's gonna earn. I'm like, hold on a second, what? We need to be thinking more on the upper. I don't care how delusional it sounds. I'm like, why is this push? This
think about legacy.
Yeah,
but
why
the
is
thing
it?
is, you're saying we're at the bottom,
No,
and then saying, and then we need to raise, we need to aim for the top.
No, based on what
Being
you're
at the top 10%.
You be on this viewpoint that, well, the average is like, I think the average earner makes about 28k to 30k in the UK. Your stance is, as long as you earn that, you're fine. I'm like, hold on a second. But what
I'm saying is you shouldn't look down on a brother for earning that. That's what I'm trying to.
But the point is, we're not saying we're going to look down on them. I'm saying that we all should have the ambition to try and do better for ourselves and try to continuously just keep on going, keep on pushing.
I mean,
you know what? The majority of men are going to be just doing a regular job for the rest of their life, earning regular money, and they don't have that drive and they don't have that ambition, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But
They're still productive.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But so long as there's a percentage,
other groups don't think like this.
You know what I mean? No, they don't. I swear to Jesus, if you go to an Asian household, I grew up with Asians. I did.
No, they don't.
Yes,
they do. No, they don't. Listen.
I only just left school, and I can tell you pretty much the majority of the medics.
Yeah, but okay, the figures don't support you. Then how's that? Then the stats don't support that.
Well, again, I swear, again, the groups that outperform
don't support you.
They do, and you know what? Again,
no, they don't. The Bangladeshi and the Pakistani community earn less than us, and they have a lower hourly.
That cannot be anywhere near accurate. The thing is, like,
what do you say? It's not accurate.
No, it is.
I'm saying it
is, but it's the only group. It's the only ethnic group that we
Pakistani and Bangladeshi. Yes,
the only group that we do better than every other.
Yes, Pakistani and Bangladeshi. Yeah, we're not the worst. We're not the worst.
Wow! Clap it up.
Yes, we're not the worst.
We're not the worst.
We are comparing two different countries, which essentially they used to be one country, but hey, the two different countries versus an entire continent and Caribbean. Well, wow.
Yeah, but we're not. That's what I'm trying to say. We're not doing
the Caribbean's quite small, so fair enough.
We're doing fantastic.
So it's only really the Indians and the white people are doing better than us. So what? And all that we've been through. Come on, man.
Man, forget. Oh, John, this has to be next week's stream about. I'm trying to understand your viewpoint. Are you telling me you're telling your kids it's fine to just be a working stiff?
Huh? No, but like I say, there's nothing wrong with doing a regular job.
Right? No.
We're
not criticizing that. We're not criticizing that.
Jobs. Like, we're just saying that we want to raise our level up for
exactly.
Not just for ourselves.
I mean, I will say this though. I will say this to be fair, right? I will say this to be fair. Sometimes I think that the people who, because let me just be real for a second, okay? The people who supposedly are so smart and so ambitious, I mean, what are they doing anyway? I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's not like as if it's just all the smart people are super at work, super productive, super trying to change everything, and there's all these stragglers holding them back. And the fact of the matter is that the way I see it is lead by example. You know, like, if, for example, like, there's people I know who I'll try and talk to and try to get them to do certain things, and they just won't do it because, like what Marathon Man says, they're just not like that. And that's something I had to learn, was that the majority of people are not going to do these types of things.
We can't all be chief.
Yeah, but the thing is, those of us who have that mindset,
yes,
we're the ones who have to go hard. And
exactly.
It will bring other people like that. But what I'm going to say is,
there's few leaders. Most people are followers.
Raise the bar.
You can't have it. You can't have it where the people who are supposedly, like, for example, if you're saying, well, you know, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to own my own business, and your business ain't doing shit, and then you're complaining about working people who make more money than you, I'm thinking, well, you ain't
no,
do-
that entrepreneur
you
stuff.
know what I mean?
That's they're confused. They don't understand how
No,
hard
but what
having
I'm
your own business is.
what I'm trying no, what I'm trying to say though is that some people think that just because they're not in a certain lane in life, that somehow that means that, for example, you might have high ambitions, but if you aren't hitting those ambitions or you ain't making the correct moves towards those ambitions, it doesn't matter. Like some people will have very grand ambitions, but they're not remotely doing anything to achieve them. So you know what I mean? There's guys sitting there running weed all day.
We're conflating two things here now. We're conflating. What you're saying, Myth Twist, is correct. Yes, people have lofty ambitions and they don't make it. That's life. But what I'm trying to say is they try to achieve those ambitions because they have high ambitions. They have high standards. What seems to be what I'm picking up from Marathon Man is don't have those ambitions because the average person is going to make the average. Therefore, don't worry about it. That's what I mean when I say there's a difference. It's all about how your mindset is. That's what I'm trying to say.
You know why it matters. That's what I'm like. I couldn't be an astronaut. Do you know what I mean? Because I just I don't want.
Why not? Why can't you be an astronaut? Why not?
Because I haven't got the discipline or the ability to go through to do that. Like I've got a degree. I wouldn't. Like I wouldn't go back and do a PhD, anything like that, because I know how hard I found doing a degree. I ain't got that. I can't concentrate and have that focus to do it, and I know I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? And some people,
yeah, but you're selling yourself short. You're selling yourself short.
No, I'm not. I know I'm not. No, I'm being realistic, and I can say I want to be the president. Some people want to be. I don't want to be no president because I don't want that kind of exposure. So I found, and most people just want to be told what to do. Put that here, put that there. Like you White Matters. Like you don't mind taking charge of certain things. Like you got your stream. Like I said, you are exceptional in that way. But everyone's not like you. Some people will be even scared to come on a panel and talk. And you can't say, "Oh, you're shit," because you're not doing that. You know.
Whoa. See, I think
you have a certain step.
Huh? I think I'm not shaming anybody for their lane.
No, but everyone doesn't have your ambition. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. And most people don't. There's very few leaders, and there's a lot of followers. That's what I'm trying to say. Most people, like, if we get ourselves together, then as black men, a lot of the black people are followers. So that's what we need to do.
The main argument I was trying to make is that basically the leadership has to be more efficient. It kind of has to change how it is. Is what I was really trying to say.
There has to be someone else like leading instead of we need to stop being led by rappers and athletes. We actually need to be led by our scientists, our businessmen, like every other decent community.
I agree with you, but the problem is with that is, and this is the problem where I say we need to reach for a different standard, because the average black person, young person, wants to be a rapper, an athlete. That's the average that they're aiming for. And do you know how difficult? Think about this. You know how difficult it is to be a rapper, a successful one. Do you know how difficult it is to be a football player, a successful one? We're talking about, especially for a football player, a black British football player, you're in a 0.0001%. But does that stop black people from trying to achieve football stardom? No. Does that stop black people from trying to be rapper? No. You see what I mean when I say the standard? Even if you can't,
but most of them will just do a normal 9-to-5 job.
But what I'm trying to say is, if you, again, someone said that if you reach for the stars and you don't make it, you're at the moon. If you, you know what I mean? And then like, oh, raw, I didn't realize I'd even make it here. And then what you are is now you are an example and a standard. Whereas the standard of a rapper is, let's be honest, be as low as you can get. The standard of an athlete, let's be honest, it's not really moral integrity. This is what I'm trying to get to. It's not about because you don't make this money. It's a whole mindset, and
that's more, but that's a you issue though. Why it matters, you know what I mean?
Really?
I know what I want to say. I understand what you're saying, but people don't think like that, and they're not going to think like that. You think you realize that people have more potential. People can't see in themselves, and I understand that, but people are not going to see it like that. Yep, try and look at it as other people, because you're seeing that. People will be like, "What? They're not going to get it," you know, and then they're going to think they're failures if they don't.
That's the reason. That's the reason why. That's the reason why, for example, you were seeing, like, for example, with Chinese or with Indian, people, where they will be having their kids doing better than a lot of even these white kids, because the same thing where a lot of white people would kind of just, like, oh well, it's all right, and you just want to be a footballer, don't they? And it's just like, and whereas the Indian is the potential you're talking about, they will basically try to force it.
They'll maximize the
Yeah,
potential.
they'll try. Yeah, they'll try to force it out of them. Now, again, though, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, I think it's just a hard thing because, again, the culture we have is so. I don't know. I feel like a lot of Africans have the culture though already. I feel like on some level it's already there with black people. It's just a certain type group of black people. I feel because a lot of Africans I know are already going into these types of things, or going into these types of fields. Like they're already doing it. So maybe we just have to wait and see how it plays out. Because I think there's a shift happening in silence anyway. But I think it's just something that we're not really maybe as aware of yet. But I think it is shifting a bit. The overall issue I'm seeing is the culture, though. The culture is still on this thing of rappers and athletes and, dysfunction and smoking weed all day. And this isn't just affecting black people, it's affecting most people, but it's affecting us the worst because it's people mostly who look like us and it's us who glorify it the most. And like I said, we don't have any popular alternatives. It's not about alternatives. We don't have popular alternatives because there are alternatives out there. There's plenty of black doctors and all these other types of things, but they're not popular and they're not considered to be.
It's why our wealth even leaves our race in the first place, because the thing that these people later on then go get married. You see it again with celebrities. People like black women, they'll go off with a white man, or black man, they'll go off with a white woman, and then it just leaves. And then we lose our best.
I've always found, which I've always found kind of interesting because, I used to always wonder, why don't those people who are the smart black people, why don't they just get with each other? But again, I think a lot of this comes down to there is a certain mentality. It's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like oftentimes there's a certain mentality that comes with the people who tend to do better. And I think it's that they do view whiteness and white culture in somewhat of a higher regard, which is part of the reason why they even do better in the first place.
Mr. Smith, with Mr. Smith, sorry, what were you saying? You're wondering why who don't go get together? The successful black and the successful
the smart black women, yeah, they're smart. Right, the couple
because a lot of times it's because it's
go ahead.
I'm waiting for the nuclear take I'm about to hear.
You know what? Because a lot of the time it's a competition. It's not a union and partnership. It's like a competition. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if you're getting up to the higher, if you're getting to the higher echelons of society, basically, you got to be aggressive. You got to be assertive. You got to be, and a lot of our women are like that. So it's like a competition, and that's the issue. So when you get to that level, you don't want that. You just want peace. And so, like a lot of black women, they're achieving a lot in terms of their masculine traits, but then it's like, you're gonna have someone who's completing you, like Michelle and Barack Obama. She was like co-president. Do you see what I mean? And you don't really need that. So you're gonna kind of go for, when you reach a certain level, you're not gonna go for that.
Funny enough, though, I never got that impression that, I know what you're saying, but Michelle was more on the forefront than a lot of other first ladies. But you never got that impression that Barack Obama was annoyed.
No, he didn't mind. He didn't mind. That's cool. So if you don't mind, that's fine. Yeah, he didn't seem to mind, but he couldn't say nothing anyway. If he did, he'd get boxed. But
she's tall as well. That's a genuine risk. She is tall.
Looks like she draws him up.
Cool. She's cool. Yeah, you can't say nothing to her, man. She gives him that look sometimes, like, don't play with me. So that is our community. So it's like more partnership.
Yeah. But we know this kind of stuff, though, don't we? It's like we vibe with it because we know a lot of it. But I still think, like you're talking about black men, it's an exaggeration. I think you exaggerate when it comes to these black women too. So, a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah. But then you have to ask the question. It's a really good question because there's a lot of
successful black women and successful black men, it's around the same. You know what I mean?
The thing is, I'm not really
Like saying-
thinking of. I mean, I said successful, and I shouldn't have really said that because
What
I
do you mean?
understand. I already understand the successful thing because I already understand how that affects. That's an issue women of a lot of races tend to have to an
Yeah.
extent. But
Yeah.
what I
I've
guess
heard
what I'm more thinking is, how should I put this? Okay, it's more like I guess I'm thinking more about the mentality. So if you've got someone, you got two black people or guy go and they have this mentality like what we're talking about, it's still, to me, the people I've met who are like this, there'll still be more of a leaning towards dating someone who's not black. And again, I think it's because the mentality is not one that's really in the black community like that. So the natural assumption that you'd make is, well, I guess I'm going to have to get with someone who's not black then, because in your immediate environment, most people aren't going to resonate. Like, I think it's even interesting how many of us are over here thinking like this.
You know what? But
To be fair,
you know what I mean?
I have to agree with you, Mr. Twist, because technically, as a person that by technicality falls under that band camp, it is really a case of you're trying to look for a person that has a certain mindset, that follows a certain thing that simply isn't there. That
but the thing is,
you don't see that same exact. That's why, as much as I laughed at Vincent,
but I'll say this. I will say this for both sides. That's why I'm saying, like, I think
exactly.
If I was a black woman and I was trying to look for someone like me, for example, it's gonna
exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
to be honest, how many of us are there, like, with our sort of mentality around, considering the vast population of black people that are around? Not many.
Yeah, but the thing is,
there's a needle in a haystack.
No, the thing is,
you're going to see another demographic that has
hold on. So
10 for every 100.
So what do you mean? In terms of mindset, what do you mean by that? What in terms of what trying to achieve the best?
Everything
no.
But one thing,
but also bear in mind as well, because I know you know, again, if we're talking about on the side with women, of course we're thinking about, okay, well, you said the issue would be competition, and the masculine thing. So again, it's all of these attributes, but also having that mentality. The mentality by itself, just by default, is hard to find, male or female. That's just hard to find in black community, period. So you know what I mean? We should know this. I like most black guys. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's increasing a bit, but most of them I'll meet, they're not fully thinking like this. So if I was a woman, for example, and I was thinking, man, I want to hear more black conservative men, then there's also other issues. You're going to have to find them attractive and like there's, you know what I mean? It's like, what are the chances it's all going to line up? It's just not very high.
Exactly. And while making up 3%
you're more likely to find it in
the 80%.
No, but the thing is, but like, okay, then most guys are like 80% of black guys are normal, average working guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about those. What I'm trying to say is, because my original question was basically to do with those of us, male and female, who might not think exactly typical. What I'm saying is about, because what I was asking was why they don't give each other, but I kind of already know it's mostly because we're more likely to find someone of another race first.
No, but you know, hold on. But you know what, Mr. Twist? The thing is, one thing you wouldn't, I hear that, but one thing you'd notice with a lot of the black guys who date out when they get successful, they've normally had relationships with black women first.
Yeah, but again, I'm not talking about success. I'm talking about the mentality that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Like, if I wanted a successful person, I can go on a dating app and filter by income and that shit. You can't filter for this mentality we're talking about. Do you get what I mean? Like, you can't just find that. You can't see that on someone. You can't, like, you'd have to know someone to know how they think like this. And a lot of the shit it's
hard to quantify that, though. You know what I mean? It's really hard to quantify
I agree, that, but what I'm saying is, I think we all know it's a minority viewpoint. I think we pretty much know. Like, most of us don't think like this.
It's a minority. It's a minority throughout all demographics. It's just especially
throughout the world.
But the problem is, it's especially bad for us, on top of us also being a minority.
Do you know what we need?
Minority of a minority.
We need like a what do we call it? Do you know how white people have country club. We need a version of a situation where people who, I know mentality, like you said, is hard to quantify, but at least with a class or a culture system,
You know what?
those kind of people can get together, or those people who have that mindset. Because let's be honest, there's certain things which certain mindset of people will likely go to, certain clubs.
Yeah, you know,
Mason,
No,
you know,
Fiona, we don't count footballers. Footballers aren't in this. Those are
No,
athletes
we're not
and
talking
rappers.
about
We
them.
don't talk about
we don't count
footballers.
entertainers. No entertainers.
No, but you know what, White Man?
You need those kind of places, you know what I mean?
No, but you know what, White Man, what you just said is actually that is pretty much the closest thing to it, because obviously like-minded people tend to do certain activities, and that actually is pretty much it. That is the best answer for it, other than having a very specific class or whatever. But before that or whatever, that is the best way of doing it. Because, for example, if I was thinking to myself, well, I want a girl who's into reading books, well, probably a good idea is to go to places where people who read books would go. Do you know what I mean? Like a library or a book club or something like that. And then just pick from, So that makes a lot more sense.
No, absolutely. And again, this ties into, again, I'm going to set up a live stream in regards to what does, in terms of separation, what does it look like? How does it move? How do we move? Because again, we don't seem to have an established Black community that I know of, which is seen in this sort of not working class, but more of a middle class. And obviously, you'll see the odd few here and there. And again, they're likely to be coupled up with a non-Black partner, wherever it is at some point. You very rarely get that unless they're straight from the continent or straight from Caribbean and that kind of stuff. You really get it if they're born here. So I need to have a good delve into what that looks like, or what do you think it should look like. So that'd be really, really interesting. I kind of want to wrap this up by the 3-hour mark, guys. So I've got another 15 minutes to wrap it up, but I appreciate everyone who's been on this panel. It's been an absolute, it's been cool, man. It's been cool. And thanks to everyone who is in the chat. Make sure you like the stream, subscribe if you are new. But yeah, no. So I suppose then, are we saying then that this Marathon Man, the mentality that we're saying right now, is this kind of alien in your thinking, or alien to you at all? Does that make sense? I mean, is this a mentality which you're thinking is the wrong way to go about things?
No. Well, I just think it's like certain rules or certain things that Black men need to do in order to be accepted, or like you're doing good. It's just crazy, because
I don't think I'm asking this question at all, but could you see there being a Black Prime Minister then?
Yes.
Okay. Because I don't know.
That could.
The reason why because if you listen to the stream, it's just that all of the prime ministers, bar a couple, they went to Oxford or Cambridge, pretty much, or some red brick universities. They were public educated, which private school, for the people who don't know what public school means. So they all went to these Eton, Harrow, all the kind of places. Again, notable exceptions, but there's still exceptions. All of these people come from a mentality which is, you are going to get that seat, or you are going to be either in the shadow cabinet, the cabinet, you are going to be there. All of them. They're sirs, they're businessmen, they come from money, but they have that mentality. And again, they seem to.
But then that's the very elite few. Majority of white people don't think like that, neither Asians. There's a very elite few who think that way on that level.
But the problem is, they have a significant number that still do that. They can put them out. These are the
90% white people in the UK. So of course, we're 3.3%.
Precisely.
So they're gonna have a lot.
And the problem is, we have a problem that makes us even disproportionately worse in comparison.
So why do we have to do extra better then? That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Because we're in an extra bad situation.
So why can't we just get up to that mid-level then?
No,
but that's how hold on. That's how you get to the mid-level. That's how you get there. You have to go extreme in the other direction to balance it out. That's what I said earlier.
Other races aren't standing still. This is another thing. All of the races aren't standing still. They aren't just standing still, you know.
Neither are we. We're not doing the worst, as I said before. But listen, I get what you're saying. We should try and aim better, and guys like us should do. But like the majority of white Asians are not going to be doing extra good or earning that top 10% of wages. But like we can make a difference, and this space is that we can. But I think expecting that from the majority of black guys.
No,
Black
we're not
people,
expecting it from
Not
the majority,
majority.
but
I
we're just,
think we
but
should
it's
get a
just
small
it's
minority.
raising the ceiling and raising the floor as well, because the floor currently for black people is kind of bad, and also the ceiling
you know,
is
you know,
low.
we- you
So
know,
we're
you
just
know,
trying to shift
No, it's a
everything.
big draw.
you know, it's going to be a good discussion that me and White Matters have
Yeah, that'd be a good
next week,
discussion.
because we can really look at the stats as well, because like White Matters is the stats man, and I've got a bit of stats, so it'd be good to see, because I think sometimes we look outside and we see certain things and we think, damn, it's like if you say, boy, there's loads of red cars outside, and you keep seeing loads of red cars. So I think sometimes stats are good, because like I said, with stats, it's the stats are the stats. You can interpret it different.
I have the
but
stats
are
to back it. Like
Cool.
if you gave me time, I could bring it.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fine.
that's the best way to do it, by stats, really, because otherwise we just kind of, I go out and see loads of homeless white people. I don't say, oh, all white people are bums, they're all shit.
But
So stats is the best way to do
the
it.
thing
You know what I mean?
I mean, the thing is, though, it's also about how you interpret stats. Stats by themselves,
Yeah.
I mean, okay,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
but like
Yes,
they
yes.
could interpret it the same way, like you're saying, where they might look
Yeah.
and be like, well, not at the bottom. So you know what I mean? It's like, well, like the stats say I'm not at the bottom, so I'm fine. So it's like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just
and-
the stats,
and-
it's about how
but-
you
but then-
interpret
but-
them as well.
Yeah, and that's like with White Matters, with his video the other day. Like, his stats were right. I just think I interpreted it different than him, so we can discuss that. So at least we can have a discussion about it and make a decision on that then. But I think that's the best way to do it, rather than just anecdotal evidence or just thinking, the world's going to end. So stats is the best way. And I'm glad we got some statisticians in this space as well. We really need it, because they got it in America, but no one really does it over here. People are just, no one really looked at the stats, and the stats are there.
In fact, I will have to criticize like some of the guys that like are on like this side. Is that we sometimes try and transfer over the stats from America and move them over here, and that is just not the case.
No, you got to do it over here.
Especially like when they quote like the single mother statistics, we're not that bad.
Yeah.
A lot of
compared to Americans, like no, we're not that bad.
Yeah.
We're worse though in terms of we don't have a middle class. Our elite,
that's true.
This is why, again, I love and thank you stats. I always look at this, try as best as I can do. Some things you can't find a stat on for conjecture and things of that nature. But
yeah,
I do like to get the stats for a lot of the basis of what I'm doing, because again,
men with children can't find that.
No, you can't really find that kind of stuff. But absolutely, and there are things which we do not, as Black Brits, don't talk about. It's like it doesn't get broached. Like, what's going on? What's going on? We need a space where we can talk about our issues, which are unique to us, that we need to fix up. We, you know what I mean? Like this conversation, for example. So yeah, absolutely. Sorry, CMA, you've been sort of cut off a little bit. Did you want to say?
Yeah, I've been a bit quiet. I do agree with what you're saying with all of that. I do think we just you need that sort of separation, but I think it's going to be like a small minority. It's not going to be everyone. Like Marathon Man, it's not going to be every black person. It's going to be a small minority that we need to
I agree.
sort of drag our race in the UK to push. Like what you said. We need a few leaders and people to follow, and people to be like deputy leaders and stuff, and to follow. And I do agree with the whole like country club types, or maybe like even secret societies. I mean, that sounds quite conspiracy type, but we just need our own sort of area to think, have like-minded people think like-minded and sort of practice, like maintaining dominance and power. And
but I will say this as well, though. That's incredibly important to all of this, because it all sounds great, but the thing is, the one thing that's really important is the you have to be assertive and not like, there has to be a certain level of aggression behind it, because the thing is that this is the kinds of stuff that is being suggested and all that, in realistic terms, it's disruptive. Okay, so if that type of stuff was to happen, that's something that's disruptive to how the status quo is, right? So you can't be doing that on some weak-handed, like, oh well, we're gonna cater to this or we're gonna back down. No, you can't. It can't be none of that. So I think you'd have to be the type of person, you'd have to be prepared for pushback. One of the criticisms I have of a lot of the black people, I just, people call them educated, whatever. I just look at it as the lot of the black people we have who are nerds and stuff. And I'm saying this as someone who's, fits into that. But I sometimes have issues with certain black people who would be classified as higher IQ or something, because sometimes they're just a bit just willing to take orders. In a sense, it's kind of like they have like because it's not just them. It's a general thing. I meet Asian people, a lot of them are the same, but I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I don't find enough black people with the leader thing that aren't also hood
Exactly.
sympathizers.
We're not getting
Yeah.
intelligent commanders.
Philip.
We're getting intelligent followers.
Yeah, like
Philip.
it's hard to describe what I mean, but I guess you guys know what I mean. It's like if I meet
Yeah.
a guy who has those qualities, like I'm gonna do this. We're gonna like they've got that. I want to do something. They usually tend to culturally not be on the same wavelength of what we're talking about here. They're usually more on some. We are repressed. We need to get the reparations. Even here in the UK, same talking points. We need to get this. We were enslaved. Like those are the people who seem to have the most energy to try and actually do some shit. Whereas a lot of the black people who might be smart or whatever, they're kind of cool with just getting that paycheck and keeping it moving. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not really sitting out here trying to disrupt any system.
I think it's because they've mostly like given up on the community and stuff. Because I've even gone through those phases where you're just looking at everything as like, this is such a mess. You know what? Let me just leave, pack my stuff, and live my life. Because sometimes I really honestly sometimes feel like that. Because I'm already halfway there, but it's like
I feel that way every day, and the worst thing is what bugs. Even for example, I mean, I'm sorry, I just have to bring this up. Even with the whole, sometimes with the whole interracial dating and all that. And I know straight up what it for me ain't gonna be no white woman, whatever. But the thing is, sometimes even with that, I'm like, even the question of whether I have kids, I'm still young, so I have time to think about these things. But I don't never forget when someone said to me when I was saying about I don't know if I have kids, they said, man, there's so many dumb people having kids. It's like we need more people who ain't like that.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And it's weird because it feels like it changed my way of thinking, because what it started making me feel like was, is there sort of obligation, like a responsibility with the fact that we are smarter? Like it's like it is smart. It's people who have this level of understanding and intelligence. They're the ones who will create the system and move things. You know what I mean? Like they just use the momentum of the masses to get it done. So it's like I guess what I'm trying to say is I think about that a lot, like the responsibility thing, because sometimes I just feel like saying fuck it, but then I kind of feel like, damn, I happen to be one of these people who knows better. Should I do something with it? It's a hard question because.
No, I get you. I think
you're doing better than me.
I think higher IQ people tend to be the people who would understand how to play the game, which means they would assimilate to the main society, because that's what they need to do to get on in life. They understand that I need to get a good job, which means I need to get a good grades, which means I stay in school first off. Need to get grades, need to go to university, maybe need to go to get a job. So a lot of it is assimilate into what the wider culture, society demands that you do. With a lot of the people who are like, I want reparations, they're rebellious in nature, which means the only way they can do it is to break the mold, because they can't do it in a way of conforming. So for them, I think the low typically, obviously it's not always the case, the low IQ people, they have to find another route, which is to be rebellious, to almost create their own path. They almost have to make their own roads somehow, and that creates a lot of disturbance, a lot of crap, because they have to build their own roads, and this is how they get almost accepted into wider society. That's what I think it is. More to do with how the two types of people see things, but that's just how I think.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that I think that you need a bit of a combination, because
Agreed.
You're not going to get the shit we're talking about done by being like, I'll just go with what the system. No, you kind of have to have that, fuck that, we're going to disrupt this. You kind of, even if you're going to go into an industry and you're going to make a business, right, and you want to do something that is, again, there's people called disruptors, right? If you want to disrupt an industry, you're going to have to come in before you make whatever you're doing, your product. You're going to already have to have the mentality to look at the market, see what's going on, and then think, how am I going to do something that's different? Now, the type of shit we're talking about on here is like that. It's like, how are we going to do something that's different? This is something that hasn't been done, so at least not in our community. So it's like, what we're talking about, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it is revolutionary talking points. You know, I don't mean revolutionary like
you
British,
are quite
British,
literally trying to uproot an entire culture that's been
right.
put.
And that's it's not an easy thing to do, which
And
I know
we
no one's
should
saying
take
it is.
control. The smarter people should take control. We should be saying, no, this is how things are going to go on. We should take control.
But then that's the thing.
as well.
That's the thing. Even admittedly, I'm already halfway putting my hands up, saying I can't deal with this. Why on earth should I do all of this?
That's when you're tapping out.
And-
That's it, yeah.
Tapping out.
And that's what my question really was, is to do with, because I have that question every damn day, and that is really what it comes down to. It's like, it's so much easier to just be individualistic and just get the fruits of it for yourself and say just fuck it. Like, it's so much easier to do that than try to, as you said, uproot a culture. That's just like it's hard. You have to build an entire conglomeration of people who are behind that and can agree to strategies on that. You can't do it by yourself.
Listen, here's what I was saying to wrap up on this, because this stream's about to hit 3 hours, and I'll say this: you are 100% is hard, but do you know what kills me? White people went out and dominated the goddamn earth. That shit was not easy. Obviously every society has had slaves, but they had slaves. They conquered east, west, north, and south. They did what they need to do, and look at the society that they've built up. It ain't easy. It ain't something that's going to be done overnight. And that's why white people, rightfully so, two things: they fight tooth and nail for their own country, which they should do, and they make sure that, I'll be honest with you, this is why I don't understand why white women complain as much as they do, because after what this white man has done for her, she has no bounds to complain about anything.
Honestly.
Right up. She's been propelled as the it girl because that white man has gone out there and conquered the world. That's what he has done. So that's what we, unfortunately, I lack that kind of killer instinct to conquer. We are conquered, but we don't have that conquering mindset, which is why you look at Africa, they've been conquered by every single outside force that's existed. I'm pretty much sure when I looked at, sorry to say that, but it is what it is. But anyway, I do really, really appreciate everyone who's been on this panel: Werewolf, CMA, Marathon Man, Myth Twist, everyone else, the Aussie. Yeah. I really appreciate it. It's been an awesome live stream today. Honest to God, been really, really good. So I make sure you come back. You all are welcome. I do enjoy the conversation. There is a live stream next week with Marathon Man on Tuesday, 9:30. We're going to be talking about struggle of and things of that nature. We're going to bring up these topics.
When
I listen to Marathon Man's response, this is what my overarching theme as to what I was thinking about him, and we're going to tackle this. We're going to tackle this, Marathon. So we talk about being conquering, man, but this is the mindset that we don't need. But we're going to go into it. So
like we need a discussion. You know what I mean? Because especially on intellectual discussion in this space, because there's not many people doing it. So respect, you know. And
to be fair, though, when you said that, you highlighted something which, again, is a gap in the market, and I don't know how it's going to happen. And I look over in the US, and they built like the Negro Manosphere, and they have like a publication. I really do need something like that where we can have our voices shown and it becoming that mainstream. And but again, I'm thinking big, broad, but we need to. Well, personally, I think we can do it. I think we have the knowledge and we've got the skill, and we're as intelligent as the Yankees. You know what I mean? We can do it. All I want to, what I'm trying to do is get that network. I think what we lack here is a network. I don't know what it is, but I think sometimes we like being the sole black person in a white setting, and especially when it comes to certain settings. I've seen it, and even I get like this sometimes. I'm like, why is another black person here? I should be the only black person here, but I'm like, no.
Really?
So, you're
telling me you don't have that?
No, I do have that.
No. Weirdly, I actually would prefer more black people for some reason. Like, I don't know.
No, like on paper you say that, but sometimes in the moment you feel like,
I'm
the shit. Nothing can touch me.
I think if they're black and from a similar class background or something, I would want them. But if they're like some hood rat on the road and coming, I'm like, nah, you could be with the cleaners.
No, there's some psychology with that a little bit.
I get what you mean. I do get what you mean. Like, you can be the only one, but I think it could be quite, not daunting, but it could be quite, somewhat lonely as well, especially like
100%.
An issue or
you're
just
right.
relate as well, and you have to somewhat conform. And it's like, and I'm quite a blunt person, so it's just a bit. You got to tread the light. You got to tread the light somehow. Like, you could, I can adapt, but I could be, a bit blunt. Yeah.
No, that's fair. And to be fair, I think what I mean, as to expand on it, sometimes we see each other a bit as a threat. Sometimes when we get in certain places,
True.
and it ends up really badly. But no, trust me, I relate. I do like to see that, and I do want to see that. But yeah, there's some psychology with me sometimes at certain points. But that's for another time. But anyway, thanks. Please tune in on next Tuesday, 9:30. We're gonna have almost a great stream. I would love to have more of you up on here, but unfortunately with StreamYard's been a free version, it's only 6, but we'll definitely get that sorted out at some point later in the day and age. But yeah, thanks everyone. We're gonna end the stream right now. Like, share, subscribe if you're new on the playback. Thanks for listening. Appreciate everyone out. And
cool.
we are out.
Bless.